hours, if there is absolutely anybody, and I mean anyone, that says they are MAGA, they support Trump, I have some questions. But for everybody tuning in here, make sure that we are double tapping away on that phone screen, you guys, and make sure that we're sharing this live out with a handful of friends. And go ahead and hop in that queue if you are an American adult that supports Trump. Something I am going to ask you guys, please, is to not troll today. If you're a liberal, please stay out of the queue. If you don't support Trump, please stay out of the queue. If you're a child, please stay out of the queue. I truly do believe that it will be incredibly difficult to find a single Trump supporter today. And I would really appreciate it if for that reason you guys want to make it more difficult by trolling. But without further ado, we are going to go ahead and hop into the discussions. If you are in that queue, make sure that means that you're at least 18 from American Support Trump. We are going to go ahead and get the very first guests loaded in of the day. What is going on, Big Zig? Are you MAGA?
Yes.
Oh boy, do I have some questions for you. How old are you?
25, just turned 25.
25, phenomenal. Real quick here before we hop into our discussion, I am going to go ahead and start the live over on YouTube. So if you wouldn't mind just giving me a second, and then for everybody watching, if you guys would double tap away on that phone screen, that would be great. I just have to retype out the title. Let's see here, episode 111. All right, phenomenal. Here we go, everybody. We are moments away from hopping into the first debate of the day with the guests on the stream. Once again, we're just getting the live started over on the YouTube channel. It is starting as we speak. Hello, and welcome in to everybody tuning in on that YouTube stream. It is so good to have you in here with us today. We are not going to waste a moment and hop right into the debates. If you're new here, we will be debating Trump supporters for the next 4 hours. Now, today will be an interesting day because, as we all know, America started war with Iran yesterday, so I'm sure that will come up frequently. But I guess we're going to go ahead and hop into that first discussion of the day. Big Zig, take it away. Tell us how the hell you could still support Trump.
Well, I figured we would just talk just simply on the topic of what happened in the past 24 hours, I would assume, huh?
We could talk about whatever you want, but I'm sure that's going to be important. Yes, I would love to know how you could still support Trump, even though he has now re-entered America into war in the Middle East with Iran, furthering the destabilization of the region, and risking the financial stability of every single American now that Iran has approved plans to shut down the Strait of Hormuz, which will drastically increase the price of everything.
Right. Do you think that Iran having nuclear weapons would be, I guess, titled as risking the lives of humans in general?
Well, I think that any country having nuclear weapons is a bad thing.
I agree.
And we can agree that I don't want Iran to have nuclear weapons. Now, if you think that is the source of justification, point number one, okay, they don't have nukes. That's according to our own National Director of Intelligence. And point number two, the only reason why they have surpassed uranium, the thresholds of enrichment of uranium that are more directed and geared towards weaponry is because Donald Trump pulled us out of a nuclear agreement that we had with the country in 2018. Right now, if Donald Trump never pulled us out of that nuclear peace agreement, they would be nowhere close to nukes today. They'd still be honoring it as they did for years. And in fact, that tells me that if the motivation for the war today is the idea that they may be close to nuclear technology, well, we could draw a direct line between that fact and Donald Trump pulling us out of the nuclear peace agreement we had with them in 2018.
Where can I see where Trump pulled us out of the nuclear peace agreement? And you said 2019?
2018.
Where could you find that at?
I mean, everywhere. Just go on Google, type in Trump pulls out of Iran nuclear peace agreement.
Okay.
So, I mean, how does that make you feel? Because you'd say that the reason that we are re-entering into war with them today is because you think that they're close to having nukes?
I would assume they had nukes.
Oh, well, that's not true. That's not true.
How do you know that?
Yeah, because our Director of National Intelligence has told us that. I
don't think we'd do that just because we think they have nukes. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure they probably had nukes.
According to who? Literally according to who? Netanyahu? Is that your source? Is your source Israel? They've been saying that they're weeks away from nukes since the 70s, right?
Who, Iran?
Yeah, and then this is also coming from the international the IAEP. Let me AIEP. I forget what's the name. The IAEP. That's going to be no, that's not the one I'm looking for. What is the name of the international organization that watches like levels of nuclear and uranium enrichment? Everybody, I forget the name of the. I forget the name of the group, the IAEA. Thank you so much. So yeah, according to U.S. intelligence, they don't have nukes. According to the IAEA, they don't have nukes. You have absolutely no reason to believe that they do have nukes. Stop buying the propaganda.
So whatever it is that I read is considered propaganda. But
what do you read? What do you read that's telling you they have nukes?
I mean, all over my social media it says they did.
Okay, well, what's the source?
I mean, I'm on TikTok right now on my phone outside.
Yeah, you have no fucking clue. So stop spewing propaganda. So yes, actually, everything that you are reading saying that is most likely 55-year-old white men sitting in their mother's basements tweeting about how World War III has started and Donald Trump is on God's side because he's stopping the terrorist state from sending nukes to Washington, D.C. Yeah, it's completely propaganda. So the question that you asked me is all the sources that you read propaganda, the answer is yes.
So you believe that all of that is fake, but you're going to believe that Donald Trump.
You haven't even told me what all of that is. Like, where's that information coming from?
Everything you just stated. Everything you just stated.
Tell me where the information that they have nukes is coming from. Give a real legit source. Okay, well, he's going on pause. We cannot hear you while you are on pause, but hopefully he's just looking for a real legit source. So while he's looking for that, we're going to get that next guest up here. And by the way, this guest also didn't respond to the fact that the only reason why we could even possibly be in a position where the country's close to having nukes is because Donald Trump pulled us out of the nuclear peace agreement in 2018. Merrick, thank you for the community celebration. I appreciate you for that, man. If you're watching and you want to support me, you can find my Venmo, my PayPal, and the link tree in my bio on TikTok or in the description of the live stream over on YouTube. I get 100% of all the proceeds on those platforms. That's also a way to support me in my work. It has been quite a bit recently, let me tell you. What is going on, Jordan? Do you support Trump?
Yes, I do.
All right. And why the hell do you support Trump?
Because he stands by Israel.
Yeah. So you basically, in other words, you're saying that you support Trump because he's re-entering America into another unnecessary war in the Middle East, right?
Not necessarily. I don't like the claims that Israel's committing genocide on the left, and I do think we need to stand by Israel.
Okay, so I disagree with you. I think that it is absolutely the case that Israel's ethnically cleansing Palestinians. But right now you're saying that in reference to what's going on with Iran. So when we stand by Israel today, or like in the speech that Donald Trump gave last night in the bombings of the nuclear sites in Iran, all that means is that we're unnecessarily entering into another war in the Middle East. Why do you support unnecessarily entering into another war in the Middle East? Because keep in mind, if we didn't bomb Iran, then we wouldn't be standing by Israel, because that's something that Israel had requested of us. So this means that when you say that you support us standing by Israel, you support us entering into another unnecessary war in the Middle East.
We're not in a war at the moment. We don't know what it. I would not classify this as a war.
Okay, so let me get this straight. I have a question for you.
Sent bombs, cruise missiles to countries that we did not have wars with.
Let me ask you a question. So if we said that we had total and complete control of Russian airspace, we know exactly where Putin is hiding and we could kill him, but we're not going to do it yet, and then we bomb multiple locations in the country of Russia, would that be a war?
It depends on the response.
Oh, it depends on their response.
Sure.
So if they retaliated at all, that'd be war?
War.
Answer my question.
No, and then it depends on our response. It could lead to a war, yes.
So would you say that there's a war between Israel and Iran right now?
There's a conflict.
Is there a war?
I wouldn't classify it as a war at the moment.
Right,
But,
right. So
well,
yeah, the only way that you could get us out of saying that there's a war between Israel and Iran, between America and Iran right now, is just to deny what a war is. So I mean, when do you think that the war in the Middle East under Bush started? Because obviously it wouldn't have started with the strikes, it wouldn't have started with the invasion, it wouldn't have started with the retaliatory responses. I mean, you're just denying what a war is, and now you sound loony. Now you sound loony. Okay, right. And the reason why I say that is because name one person, even on the right, that denies that there's a war between Israel and Iran right now. Name one person, name one institution of media, name one independent journalist, name one large figure that denies a war between Israel and Iran today.
Look, we're getting involved in the semantics here. But the bottom line,
you started that conversation because you were the one that said it's not a war.
I would not classify it as a war between.
I'd probably classify it as military conflict, not necessarily a full-scale.
So then answer my question. Tell me one person on the right that says that there's not an ongoing war between Israel and Iran.
I mean, I can't tell you the commentary of talking heads, and I don't think that justifies, as you pointed out in different occasions, whether it's a war or not, if someone's classifying it as that.
Okay, so then you're just basically saying that, well, you hold a position that nobody else holds, not even the Trump administration, and you think that I'm the one coping by pointing that out. Right, like even J.D. Vance this morning said that we have started war with our nuclear enrichment facilities. That's coming straight from the administration, man. I don't know what to tell you.
Okay, regardless of the semantics, I can concede to you that we've started a conflict with Iran. All right, I mean, I really don't.
Now, do you support that or do you not support that?
I will say this: that I was Biden 2020. I did not agree with pulling out of the nuclear peace talks. At this time, what we do know is Iran has substantially enriched uranium since that time. We don't know how close they were. I know that Netanyahu has been whistleblowing, claiming this and fear-mongering about it.
You're just not giving me an answer to my question. For chat, for the 7.3 thousand people watching on TikTok and the 1.2 thousand on YouTube, is this guy answering my question?
All right. Your question was, were we just in starting a conflict?
Do you support re-entering into conflict in the Middle East or not?
Under the circumstances, yes, I do.
Okay, so yes. So you do support going back into war in the Middle East, possibly costing us trillions of dollars, thousands of lives of Americans, further destabilization of the region, and hurting every single American, including yourself, because as of this morning, right, the Iranian parliament unanimously approved shutting down the Strait of Hormuz, in which would oversee the transport of 20% of the daily global oil production. And if the Supreme Leader approves that, guess what? Your gas is going to be significantly more expensive, and there's going to be global inflation. Okay, and that was the worst thing since sliced bread when that was onset by the pandemic. But apparently, when Donald Trump directly causes that, not just by deciding to bomb locations in the country and starting war, but also by originally pulling us out of that nuclear peace agreement in 2018, it's something you support. What I don't support, what I can't stand by, and what I must call out is the total and utter disgrace of the right today and the hypocrisy in which is ever present, not only within yourself, but within every member of the Trump admin and everybody else that supports Trump. So please address the hypocrisy. How can you say that you stand behind these actions with all of the negative consequences I just named already coming to fruition?
Because yeah, there's going to be negative consequences from starting a conflict, of course. If Iran had gotten a nuclear weapon, the negative consequences could have been substantially worse, even to global cataclysmic proportions. So, I am in support of preventing that from happening. And if there's some short-term pain from it, I think long-term, the world will be more stable.
Okay, so your claim is the same as Netanyahu's, that we need to attack the state of Iran because they're close to having nukes. I have a question. What does U.S. intelligence say? How far out does U.S. intelligence say that Iran is from having nukes?
I don't know. I do know that they have substantially
Okay, you don't know.
their uranium.
You don't know. The answer is 3 years. And the justification is the weapons of mass destruction. This is the same justification that Bush ran on to introduce an invasion of Iraq and Afghanistan. And we saw where that led. It was another endless war that never went anywhere. And the fact that you are repeating and echoing those same sentiments today is absolutely terrible. Now, let me ask you a question. Do you think there's any other way to prevent the further development of nukes at behest of Iran apart from starting another war in the Middle East?
There could have been, but after Israel started their proactive measures, I don't think diplomacy was going to get us there.
I have a question. Do we have control over Israel?
No.
So you're telling me that we're not actively funding their ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians and their ongoing war effort on on Iran, and we don't hold some level of control over what the leadership of Israel or the IDF does because of the significant level of backing that we are providing to them in these conflicts?
Oh, I disagree with the premise of that question, labeling it as an ethnic cleansing. Are we supporting the war in Gaza? Yes. Okay. And the removal of Hamas.
Of course you deny that that's ethnic cleansing too.
Well,
of course you deny that that's ethnic cleansing too.
I'd like to discuss that.
I'm going to go to move on to the next guest. I appreciate you for coming up. If you're in that queue, make sure it's because you support Trump. We're going to go ahead and get the next guest up in the live at this point. This is going to be a very annoying day for these conversations, everybody. The guests, they're going to come up here. They're going to deny with no good reason. They're going to challenge, what is accepted by everybody unilaterally, even things that are accepted by their own administration. It's going to be a very annoying day. Aubrey, thank you so much for the $15 over on Venmo for knowing what you're talking about and being somebody I look up to. Aubrey, that is incredibly kind of you. Let's get 200 Aubrey W's down below in that comment section. I really, really appreciate that. As well as Casserole, thank you for the $5 over on Venmo as well. I'd also like to thank Ali for the $10 over on PayPal. You guys are so incredibly kind. Now, we are going to go ahead and get the next guest up in the live right now, everybody. Go ahead and drop a MAGA attached to your age down below in that comment section if you'd like to come up and have a good faith discussion with me about how the hell you still possibly support the Trump administration, everybody. As well as Eternal Rose, thank you so much for the $10 over on YouTube Super Chat. And Cam, thank you for the $20. Let's get 200 Cam W's. What is going on, Amy? Do you support Trump?
Fuck no.
Okay, well, Amy, please don't request. I do understand that we have a lot of new people in here since we started the live, so I'm going to go ahead and rehash those rules super duper quickly, everybody. Only hop in that queue if you are 18 or older from America and support the Trump administration. If you do not fall under that category, please do not join into the guest request, everybody. I would really appreciate that, you guys. I would really appreciate that. That would be so incredibly kind.
Hello?
What is going on, Laundry? How old are you?
17.
Okay, dude, follow the rules. You are too young to request. I just said this very loudly. Test. And they got an echo, so we got to move on. Here we go, everybody. We got Gav loading up into the box for the 10,000 people over in the TikTok live stream, guys. Make sure that we're double tapping on that phone screen. Welcome in, Gav. How old are you?
I'm 18.
You're 18. Do you support Trump?
I do, kinda.
Kinda. Okay.
Like not fully.
Not
you know
fully,
I mean?
but kinda. So what do you support about Trump?
I don't know. At first I thought like the attack on Iran was kind of dumb or whatever, but it kind of makes sense when you think about it, I guess. Like they kind of like don't need nukes is the way I look at it.
They don't need nukes. Dude, okay, 1, U.S. intelligence says that they're years out. 2, they were able to work diplomatically with America for 3 years under a nuclear peace agreement in which their nuclear enrichment facilities were monitored 24/7 by the IAEA, as well as the IAEA said that there are 0 violations under the totality of the signed agreement that we had with the country. 3, it is the case that when we signed the agreement with them back in 2015, that they sent 97% of their enriched uranium to Russia and shut down a lot of their facilities that they were using to develop nuclear technology. And the only reason why any and all of those plans failed is because Trump pulled us out of the deal. So, A, if you think that they're close to having nukes, blame Trump. Shouldn't we impeach the man that is single-handedly responsible for apparently a terrorist state being on the edge of possessing nuclear technology?
So like the general consensus is like they don't even like have nukes or close to, not have nukes, but are not even close to having nukes.
U.S. intelligence says that they're years out. But I mean, if you think that they're about to have them or they already have them, wouldn't you
I
agree
don't
that
think they
we
already
should?
have them. By
Would
no
you agree
means.
that we should impeach the man that is single-handedly responsible for a terrorist state being on the bleeding edge of possessing nuclear technology in accordance with your view?
I have no idea.
You don't. You have no clue. You have no clue.
Why,
Okay.
why would we blame Trump?
Because he's the one that pulled us out of the agreement that prevented them from the further development of nuclear technology for no reason.
When did that happen?
When did that happen? That happened in 2018.
So he pulled us out of an agreement that would have prevented them from getting the technology to create nukes.
That did prevent them. Absolutely. Yep.
So what was that?
It was
Can
a
I look that
nuclear
up?
peace agreement. Yeah, it was called the Iranian nuclear peace agreement. They entered into it with us and 5 other countries, and it gave the IAEA, which is an international administration of nuclear advancement. I think the IAEA. I could even look up what that stands for more specifically. They had access to 24/7 surveillance of all of their nuclear, all of their nuclear facilities, and it is the case that they reported no violations while the agreement was signed.
So what do you think the reason was for Trump bombing the facilities?
Because Israel asked him to.
You think he just did it because Israel asked him?
Yeah.
There's got to be more reasoning than that, surely.
No. What's the other? What's the reason?
Well, why would you think he would just jump for Israel like that?
Well, because the AIPAC has only given him $230 million, but that's neither here nor there.
I mean,
But seriously, Israel says Trump jump. He says how high?
I don't know, bro. 230 million. I feel like that's not a lot in the grand scheme of things.
So then why did he do it?
I don't know. I don't know his. I mean, I'm not like one-sided by no means, but
The
I don't think he
U.S.
would just-
always jumps for Israel. We do whatever
I don't
the fuck
think he
they
would
want.
just-
The way,
I don't think he would just
Israel
do
has
it for
so
no
much.
reason.
Israel has so much influence over America. Okay, and maybe like another reason here is period. I appreciate you for the galaxy outside of AI pack is like the idea that like that is God's country, and doing Israel's will is doing God's will. I
but
mean, like
isn't
Donald Trump
Israel,
even
like,
spoke one
mostly-
moment. Donald Trump even spoke about this in his speech last night. He said, "God bless America and God bless Israel."
Isn't Israel mostly Jews?
So it's an ethnic state of Jewish individuals. Yeah.
They don't believe in God, right? Aren't they like
Oh, bro. Okay.
No, they don't believe in Christ. I mean,
I'm not going to go over the theology of it with you, but
They don't.
in accordance with the Christian Bible,
they
Israel,
literally don't believe in Christ.
in accordance with the Christian Bible, Israel is God's chosen land, and a lot of congressmen and women, as well as even potentially the president, think that we have a holy obligation to protect the land and to protect the country, and this is being demonstrated in reality by us bending the knee to whatever they want. We did this with their ethnic cleansing of Palestine, and now we're doing this with their unjust aggression on Iran. So,
I don't know. Whenever I looked up the
Mariah,
Jews'
thank you for the
religion-
300. And okay, I do really appreciate you so much. For
When I
that.
looked up the Jews' religion, that
Jewish
it says they don't
religious
believe in
religions.
Christ or Muhammad. They don't believe in like any type of.
So
I don't know.
they don't think Christ was God. They think he was a prophet. But even then, that doesn't change anything I just said. That doesn't change the fact that Christians, a lot of them, even in Congress, think that they have some holy obligation to protect the land because it's their holy land and to protect.
Like
Israel.
everyone's
Since
going
God
crazy.
says in the Book of Revelation that Israel will be the last country standing.
Everyone's going crazy in the comments, but like literally look it up yourself. They don't believe in Christ.
Hey, can you repeat the last thing I said, you idiot? Like, I don't know why you're ignoring me. Repeat the last thing I said. Stop being dense. I've explained this. I've explained this to you 5 times, 5 different ways, and then you just keep saying, "Oh, they don't believe in Christ." Okay,
Because they don't. You're sitting here trying to tell me
listen
they're
to what I'm
Christians.
saying. I never said that non-Christians are Christians. Okay, if you are religiously Jewish, then you are not Christian. That is evidently implied via the rejection of the Trinity and other core Christian theology, such as the Nicene Council of 320 AD. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is that Christians today, particularly those in the government, view Israel as their holy land, and because the book of Revelation says that Israel will be the last country standing, they believe that they have an obligation to protect, defend, and bend the knee to the state of Israel. And the fact that the state of Israel does not recognize Christ as king, right, doesn't change anything I just said. So stop repeating that every single time I'm A, explaining Christian theology to you, and B, explaining how Christian theology has been able to work its way into the American government and motivate congressmen and women as well as the president to bend the knee to Israel.
Okay. So what is Russia's standpoint on it? Like, what are they gonna do? Are they gonna do anything?
No, don't pivot. Respond to what I just said, please.
I don't really care, to be honest. There's no arguing with you.
Right, you don't care. So when you lose a conversation, you don't care.
You tried to tell me Israel was Christians, and like this is hilarious.
I never told you that Israel's were Christians.
You pretty much said that.
No, I said that Christians think that they have an obligation to protect Israel.
Which makes no sense because Israels don't even believe in Christianity.
Well, then go tell them that.
It literally makes no sense.
Well, then go tell the Christians in our government that. Don't tell me that. Go tell Trump
bro,
that.
That's just a dumb reason, bro.
Okay, well then go tell Trump that that's a dumb reason. Please, go do it.
I'm sure Trump knows it's common knowledge that they're not Christians. Why would he jump for him because of the fact that
Okay, well then
he's
explain to me
Christian?
why in the speech last night he said that
sense.
us and Israel are very close partners. God bless Israel, God bless America. That's a quote from his speech last night. Then why did he say God bless Israel, God bless America? That's what he said in his speech
because Trump's a
last night.
Christian. He's going to say God bless any country he's helping.
Well,
Like,
no, he
what?
specifically said God bless Israel. Keep in mind, once again,
Because he just helped
the
Israel.
book of Revelation in the Christian Bible
Oh
says
my
that Israel
gosh.
will be the last country standing on earth, as well as it is the Christian Holy Land, regardless if the state or the individuals in the state are Christian or not. That is a Christian Holy Land, so they believe that they have an obligation to protect and uphold it. And this is coming from congressmen and women. Please go look at the interviews of journalists walking up to congressmen and women asking them why they're pro-Israel, and then they say, well, because the Bible tells me to. Go look at the sit-down interview between Ted Cruz and Tucker Carlson that took place 4 days ago, and listen to how Ted Cruz is trying to convince Tucker Carlson that it says in the Christian Bible that we need to protect Israel. That is a sentence that was uttered out of Ted Cruz's mouth 3 days ago.
Wait, so do you think Trump would not say God bless to any other country he just helped him
Respond
with?
to what I just said. Respond to the fact that I'm able to point out very specific
You didn't even
congressmen and
respond to
women
my question.
that have been very loud in saying that the Christian Bible says that we have an obligation to protect Israel, and in the book of Revelations it says that Israel will be the last country standing.
But you
Not to
think
mention,
that's why
regardless of
Trump
the
jumped for
religious
Israel,
affiliation of the
because the Bible
state,
said
it is
we
a
have an
Christian
obligation.
Holy Land. So respond to those things, sir. You're being dense.
just
You're being
responded.
disingenuous. And honestly, for everybody watching, all 12.5 thousand of you, this is how every single one of these conversations is likely to go today. Because guess what? What I'm saying is true. What I'm saying can't be contested. This is the reality of the situation. And if there's anybody in this country that still stands 10 toes behind Trump, this is the way that they're going to operate in these conversations. They're going to shut down all of their intellectual faculties. They're going to shut down all of their faculties of reasons, all of their faculties of logic, and all of their faculties in which are supposed to be in alignment with truth or in alignment with reality, and become dense little individuals such as the guests that we have on the live right now. I'm giving you the facts and you can't contest them, man.
I think you're just a narcissist, bro.
You're calling me a narcissist because I've been able to demonstrate that you're wrong. Stop projecting.
You keep bringing up the Bible now, like, bro.
Well, of course I'm going to bring up the
How old is
Bible
the
when you're
Bible?
asking me about the Bible as it relates to Christians' views on Israel.
I did not ask you about the Bible. What are you talking about?
You did. You said, well, why is it the case that Christians would want to protect Israel? Well, I told
Because
you
they're
why,
not
and a
even
lot of it is
Christian.
rooted in the Bible.
Oh my gosh. Bro, they're not even Christians. Your point makes no sense.
I never said that Christians think that they have to protect Israel because Israel is Christian.
I'm
I said
pretty
that
sure Christians actually like dislike Jews because of their beliefs.
Jewish
They
individuals. not
think
Jews.
Jesus is a false prophet.
Okay, so I've already repeated this 10 times. I'm going to repeat it last time
You're
for you.
good. No,
Are you ready?
No.
Right, you don't want
to.
me to repeat it because you're wrong. I have a question. Do you think that Donald
I
Trump
guess, bro.
I have a question. Do you think that Donald Trump is going to be good for inflation?
I doubt it.
So
I
inflation's
doubt
going to
it.
go up. So why do you support a president that's going to cause inflation in this country?
Okay, how much inflation did Biden cause?
I actually don't think that we'd attribute any inflation that happened under his administration to him. What did he do to
Really?
cause inflation?
You don't think so?
Yeah, how did he cause inflation? Tell me.
Oh, so inflation just happened. But if it happens when Trump's president, he's causing it
So
all.
are you going to tell me how he caused it?
Are you going to tell me how he didn't cause it?
Okay, for sure. So basically you're saying that you can't prove your claim. Therefore,
Are you going to
to
tell me how Biden did not cause inflation?
Are you going to interrupt me while I'm trying to answer your question, little boy?
Yeah, you're a narcissist, bro.
I'm a narcissist for calling
You're
you a
that
little
upset.
man.
You don't even know what I look like. You're calling me a little man because you're upset.
I'm not calling you a little man because of your physicality. I'm calling you a little man because of your pea-sized brain. But I am now going to go ahead and mute you and I'm going to
Yeah, I'm
respond
sure,
to your
bro.
question. So you said, oh, can you tell me how Biden didn't cause inflation? Well, first and foremost, the burden of proof is going to be on the accuser, meaning when you suggest the positive claim that the Biden-Harris administration caused inflation, the Odin would be on you to grant evidence for this claim being true. But you are obviously
Okay,
trying
he
to
gave
contort.
like how much money to
Don't
Ukraine?
interrupt me. Don't interrupt me. And if you want to try to posit the fallacious idea that it is rather on me to refute what you're saying, and if I can't refute what you're saying is therefore true, well, I'll just simply give you a really fallacious, very loaded hypothetical example to refute that. You shouldn't support Trump because last night he raped a little girl. Oh, and guess what? I don't have to give you any evidence for this. But if you can't give me evidence against this, it must be true.
Okay, did him giving like billions to Ukraine not hurt our economy?
Okay, for sure. So now you're saying that the $32 billion that we gave to Ukraine per year...
32 billion? Oh my god, I didn't know it was that much. That's insane.
Let me know when I could talk.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
So you're saying that the $32 billion that we sent to Ukraine per year, disproportionately in weaponry...
Per year?
Okay, man. So, you are intentionally interrupting me at this point. Are you here for any type of
I'm
productive
sorry.
dialogue?
I'm sorry. I was just reacting.
Do you have any like self-control?
No, I'm sorry. I mean, like,
So you don't have self-control.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so you're saying that the $32 billion that we sent to Ukraine per year, all right, which was disproportionately in weaponry, is what caused inflation here at home in America. So, A, expenditure in other countries is going to cause less inflation than expenditure in the American economy, since less of that money would be in circulation in the American economy. And B, if you think that $32 billion per year is what caused a 9% level of inflation after the pandemic, then please tell me how much inflation you think the $8.6 trillion spent in 4 years under Trump's first term caused.
Well, there wasn't much inflation at all during Trump's first term.
Oh, okay. So then if $8.6
Like,
trillion
at all, like,
in
it was
expenditure
actually-
can't cause much inflation, then how could a little bit over $100 billion cause the most inflation in the last 100 years? Make that make
Hey,
sense.
you tell me, bro. I don't know. It's been bad lately.
All right. Well, I mean, what that shows you is that this wouldn't be a good enough reason for you to say that the Biden-Harris administration motivated a lot of inflation, given the fact that the Trump administration spent 80 times as much compared to the expenditure that you just pointed out, and I guess caused no inflation.
So, what do you think is causing the inflation under the Biden administration?
Yeah, the pandemic.
Okay, yeah, okay, that's a valid argument, I guess. You can say the pandemic caused it, but all that inflation, even like afterwards, the fallout, you think that was all because of the pandemic?
Yeah, yeah.
So him just throwing out billions and billions of a year is just like, oh no, it's nothing.
We already agreed that the Trump administration spent twice as much as them, and you don't think that caused much inflation. So even you don't attribute direct government spending.
So what
to
did
causing
the
inflation.
Trump administration spend twice as much on? Can you repeat it?
Yeah, for sure. One of the main motivating factors of their expenditure would have been nearly $2 trillion spent on tax cuts that disproportionately benefited the ultra wealthy.
So like, what's your source for that?
What's my source on that? That's going to be the Donald Trump's tax plan passed in 2018, and the expenditures reported via 10-year projection, both by the U.S. Treasury and the CBO.
Okay, so he gave out $2 trillion in tax cuts.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. I gotta find that. I never heard about that.
Okay. Well, you don't really seem like you're that educated. Right?
What was
There
this?
was the Donald Trump tax cuts of 2018 and the 10-year estimated expenditure from the CBO and the U.S. Treasury.
Okay, was that money in circulation, or is it like another Ukraine excuse?
Yeah, because it went to Americans and the American market. Yes,
Okay.
that money was in circulation. Absolutely. What?
What's the difference between like money being in circulation or not? Like, it's still money that could be in circulation.
I don't know what you're asking.
Like all the money we gave to Ukraine, like you said, oh, it wasn't in circulation. Like it could have been.
Because it was being used for humanitarian support in the country and like literal weapons.
Yeah, but we just print money like it's nothing. We could like it could easily be in circulation.
I don't know what you're asking me. I'm not gonna lie. Like I don't know what you're asking me.
Like your
and
whole
how
thing
this
was,
relates
oh,
to
it's
the
not in
point.
circulation. Oh, it doesn't. It's
Oh
not even
no,
real.
no. My
basically.
point
Throw
said,
it away.
my point said that it was less likely to be in circulation in the American economy compared to expenditure inside of America because A, it's out of the economy in another country, and B, is disproportionately in weaponry, not in like money. So it'd just be less likely to increase the overall M2 money supply in the American economy. And that's true.
That's crazy. They don't really get that. It's still money.
Okay, but that money
It's still our money that could easily be put in circulation. That's just being tossed away.
But it's less likely to increase the money supply in the American economy because it's not in America, and most of it isn't money; it's weapons.
That's wild.
So why do you support Trump?
I mean, I just respect that he's like not scared to like stand up for our country.
He's not scared to stand up for a country. Was Hitler scared to stand up for Nazi Germany?
Okay, we're not bringing up Hitler, bro.
I'm just saying, if that alone is the reason why you support him, does this mean that you would have supported Hitler too?
What?
Yeah, was Hitler scared to stand up for Nazi Germany?
So if you support someone who's not afraid to stand up for their country, you like Hitler.
Well, I'm just trying to demonstrate to you that this like false representation, I would say, is not sufficient to support a candidate, right? Especially like when we'd consider like the truth.
I mean, I didn't even vote.
I was in the middle of speaking, Gavin. Why do you
I'm so sorry.
incessantly interrupt me?
I'm sorry.
No, tell me, why do you continue to interrupt me every single time I open my mouth? I'm being serious. Tell me.
I'm sorry, bro. Talk.
No, I don't want you to apologize. I want you to explain why you've done this
my
every single
goodness.
time I've spoken since you've joined.
Have you not been interrupting me too?
I actually haven't, no. So I want you to answer my question. Why do you continue to do this every single time I open my mouth?
Can you just keep talking what you're talking about?
No, I want you to explain why you've interrupted me every single. I want you to explain why you've interrupted me every single time I've opened my mouth.
Because I can. I have free will.
Because you have free will, dude. Yeah, that's really good justification.
Now you're sounding like a communist.
We define communism.
No free will.
So communism is not quote unquote no free will. Communism is a stateless, moneyless, classless society.
That's what you want, right?
No, I don't support communism.
So why are you so mad that I'm interrupting you?
Because two things could be true at once. I could win a productive conversation without interruption while not being a communist.
Whatever you say, bro. Can you just go on what you were saying?
Not with you, man. You're completely intelligible and incoherent. So we're going to move on to the next guest. Everyone, give us a minute. We're going to get Tyler up in here, everybody. Let's see here. Yo, Ali, thank you so much for the $10 over on PayPal. As well as Naomi, thank you for the 10 as well. Naomi says, it's not much, but thank you so much for what you're doing, educating and debating the uneducated. I appreciate you for the love, Naomi. As well as Lubna, thank you for the $10 over on PayPal. Shout out to Naomi and Lubna. I would also like to thank... let's see here. Viv for the $5 on Venmo. Valerie with the $5 on Venmo asking me to kick Gav. Yeah, we got him out of here. As well as Amanda. Thank you so much for the $20 over on Venmo, saying you inspire me so much. Thank you for everything that you do. I really appreciate that, Amanda. Let's get 200 Amanda W's. Thank you so much. Thank you. Welcome in, Tyler. Do you support Trump?
Absolutely.
Oh, dear Lord. Man, do you happen to have any type of Bluetooth device connected that you're speaking to me through?
Yeah, I'm speaking through AirPods. Should I go on speaker?
Yeah, if you could take the AirPods out, that would be great.
One second.
That'd be great. As well as Tracy, thank you so much for the 14 Canadian dollars over on Super Chat, saying I love your show. Keep up the great work. I appreciate that, Tracy. That's very kind of you. Well, Tyler, take it away. Tell us how the hell you still support Trump.
I would mainly say his position on being pro-life and being anti-abortion for the main part.
Okay, I have a question. Is further restricting upon food stamps pro-life, considering the fact that social benefits such as food stamps or increases in the child tax credit have been shown to reduce childhood poverty by upwards of 40%?
How would you say that is correlated with the pro-life argument?
Because it reduces the quality of the life of our children.
Yeah, and I would think that as a society we should support other people. I wouldn't support
So wouldn't this be antithetical to the pro-family, pro-child, pro-life worldview?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, all right.
I support policies that help mothers, help children, help family, of course.
Okay. I mean, so then you'd support that would mean that you'd support pro-choice policy related to allowing women and girls access to abortion as federally protected, because it's been demonstrated in areas with pro-choice legislation compared to areas with pro-life legislation. We see a higher income on average, we see higher levels of education, we see higher wages, as well as we see higher qualities of life, as well as pro-choice legislation ensures that there's more families in which are financially well off and ready to start a family and consent to having children, compared to forcing 18, 19, 20-year-old boys and girls into being mothers and fathers, because the Republican, senator, congressmen and women thinks that they shouldn't be able to access health care. So, if you support families, you would support pro-choice legislation.
I let me ask you a question in terms of like you would say that you're like pro-abortion, correct?
I'd say
So
I'd say I'm pro women having a right to abortion.
Okay, so do you think abortion is a good thing or a bad thing, or would you say it's a neutral thing? Or
I think it's morally permissible.
okay, so hypothetically, if there was like a woman who like got pregnant with the sole intention of getting an abortion, do you think that is permissible?
Yeah, I don't think it's morally wrong. It's weird, but it's not morally wrong.
So you would be fine with that? Just want to put that there.
I'd be weirded out. Like, why would she do that to herself? But I definitely don't think it'd be morally wrong.
Okay, and you would say, when would you think that personhood begins?
Well, I mean, I think that abortion is morally permissible up until 20 weeks. But I want to ask you, why are you pro-life?
Yeah, so me personally, I would say that like I'm a Christian. I'd say I'm a follower of Christ, and I would say that like life begins at conception. But I would say what makes us intrinsically valuable is that we're all made in the image of God, right? And that's what makes us different from animals.
So is your argument that abortion is a sin that violates the Ten Commandments, and for that reason it should be illegal?
I wouldn't even say it necessarily. I would say that like we are like what's not allowed in the Ten Commandments is we're not allowed to murder, which I would classify murder as the intentional killing of an innocent human being. And I would say that would fall into.
So would your response to my question be yes then?
What was the question again?
That abortion is a sin that violates the Ten Commandments, and for that reason it should be illegal?
I wouldn't necessarily say it could be. So a lot of people would say like abortion's like murder. I don't think it's murder like all the time, because some people they have abortions, but they don't necessarily think that their intention is not, I want to murder this thing, right?
So would you just say that abortion is a sin that transgresses upon God's moral law, and for that reason it should be illegal?
I would say, God would not condone abortion, yeah.
Okay, God would not condone abortion, therefore it should be illegal. Is that your position?
Not necessarily, because I think that you can also argument from a scientific standpoint as well. But I would say...
Okay, well now you're completely shifting away from the argument that you've been giving about the idea that humans are intrinsically moral valuable because of the fact that they're made in the image of God. Now you're saying that we could argue it from a scientific standpoint. Well, scientific standpoints don't tell us anything about ethics, morality, or what should be the case. They just simply inform us of what is the case. So you actually wouldn't be able to argue a claim of ethics from a scientific standpoint. Now you are attempting to argue this claim of ethics from a Christian standpoint. So once again, is your argument that abortion is a sin that transgresses upon the moral law of God, therefore it should be illegal?
So I would say like all the morals that we have in society, right? I would say that there's objectively bad things and objectively good things.
Okay. I don't need like this explanation of your meta-ethical perspective. I just need a yes or no to the question that I asked you.
Yeah, I would say that it would not be.
So the answer is yes. So your stance is that abortion is a sin that transgresses upon the moral law of God, therefore it should be illegal. Okay, I disagree with this position for this reason. Lying to your children and telling them that Santa Claus exists is a sin that transgresses upon the moral law of God. For that reason, should it be illegal to lie to your children and tell them that Santa Claus exists?
Well, I would obviously first off agree that lying would not be acceptable, but I don't think that necessarily that if it's not like morally right, it should be made illegal. For instance, lying would not be. Yeah,
so then why should abortion be made illegal? Because now you're contradicting your own argument, because you literally just laid out the perspective. Because abortion is morally wrong, it should therefore be illegal. You accepted that as your position. You are now contradicting that position.
Well, I mean, the severity of like an abortion, which is like the taking of a human life, right? And then a lie, I would say, is a different hierarchy of what's more morally
Well,
bad.
now you're adding on to the Bible because the scripture sure as hell doesn't tell us this, okay? The closest thing we get to determining the hierarchical order of sins as described in the Christian Bible would be in Romans when God tells us that all sins fall short of the glory of God. Now, most denominations of Christianity have interpreted this as deeming all sins as equal in the eyes of God outside of blasphemy, but I will say that's not explicitly stated. But definitely, when you start to impose a hierarchical order of the wrongness of sins unto the Christian faith, you are trying to assume what the perfect divine moral standard of God would determine insofar as the wrongness of different acts. However, that is not revealed by God to us either through scripture, through revelation or prophecy, meaning that you are now operating outside of an accordance with the moral standard of God, and you are now basically simply telling us that abortion should be illegal because you think it's really super wrong, but there's no further justification as maybe it would be attached to Christian theology or a greater ethical position.
Yeah, so I would disagree with. I think that you were taking verses out of context with like, for all have fallen short of the glory of God. There's definitely a hierarchy of sins. So what is more worse and what is bad? But when it says that we have all fallen short, it is saying that we as humans of what?
How can you determine that God thinks that abortion is worse than lying?
Well, I mean, you could read chapters in the Bible like First Corinthians 1, chapter 6. 1 Corinthians 1. If you read that chapter, it lists off all these things that we once were. It says like the. 1 second, I can get the.
Okay, well, I just read through the entirety of 1 Corinthians 1. There's absolutely nothing in 1 Corinthians 1 in which would indicate to us a hierarchical order of sins.
Okay, so wait, hold on. I gotta get the. Okay, that's unfortunate. I'll misplaced my Bible, but there's like the 7 great sins. So there's like thieves, stealing, gluttony. There's like I would say there's.
I want you to be able to tell us what is your Christian standard for being able to determine that abortion is more morally wrong than lying.
Okay, so if you were to go to like the laws of like Leviticus, we could see that like if a woman was killed with and she was pregnant, it would be considered Sorry, let me rephrase that. So if someone harmed a woman that was pregnant in Levitical law and the baby was injured or the baby died, that person would be put to death. So there was capital punishment for if you killed a mother with a baby inside of her, right?
So do you think that Levitical law is true today?
No, so you have the
So then why are you referencing like Levitical law that isn't true today?
Well, just to highlight how severe the punishment would be.
Wait, so is it true or is it not true? Which one?
Is what true? Like that it happened in that
Levitical law
time?
true today or not true today?
Levitical law, I would say that it does not apply to us today. However, if you look at the intention of why the law was put in place.
If it doesn't apply to us today, thereby you're trying to make an argument that simply doesn't apply today. So this argument would have no implication insofar as the determination of the severity of these transgressions in accordance with applying them to the current day legal system in America.
Well, not necessarily, because like the reason I'm pointing out the Levitical laws of it is that it shows that it was a very severe thing, right? Like I don't even necessarily believe in like.
Okay, so it does still apply today insofar as determining the wrongness of particular actions.
Well, you can see the punishment of like.
So yes or no?
harming
Levitical law applies today insofar as determining the wrongness or rightness of actions.
It applies in a sense of what we can take morals of what the like Levitical law like was showing us, and we could say that
so moral law from Leviticus is true today.
Not the laws don't like the punishment doesn't get applied to us because like we don't live in the
So is the answer
times,
yes
right?
or no?
The point of the Levitical, like what I'm showing you in that Levitical law, is to say that was taken as a very severe thing at that time.
Okay,
right?
but I'm asking you if that's true today as well. So is the Levitical law still true today insofar as determining the rightness or wrongness and the severity of the rightness or wrongness of particular actions?
I could say like yes. Like if I were to give you an example, right? like if you were to cheat on your spouse, right, in Levitical law, right, it is gains for like, you should be able to stone them and do all these things, right? But then if you look at the New Testament, when you had the adulterous woman come to Jesus, he said, "Go and sin no more," right? And we could see that cheating is still, or committing adultery is still a grave sin, and it still has a heavy weight to it. However, the punishment is not the same for in our day and age now, right?
Okay,
so
you're
yes,
still talking. I just wanted a yes or no. So you did indeed affirm that Levitical law is true today insofar as determining the rightness or wrongness of actions. So does this mean, because it is described in Leviticus 25 verses 44 through 46, that slavery is not wrong as long as it is an Israelite enslaving a non-Israelite as human property for life, that this means that today it is not wrong if an Israelite enslaves a non-Israelite as human property for life, since you did indeed affirm the fact that Levitical law applies today insofar as determining the rightness or wrongness of actions?
So I think that when you're talking about like slavery in the Levitical time, I don't think so the law was given at the time of the people. They would have slaves, right? So the law was given to them to see how to say like how to treat your slaves in that time. But God doesn't condone slavery, right? So like I would say that no, he doesn't.
Okay, I have a question.
Sure, what's the question?
If I have a child and I tell him that he may take a gun to school and shoot the kids in his classroom, and I know that he will take that gun to school and shoot the kids in the classroom, and he does take that gun to school and shoot the kids in the classroom, did I condone my son taking that gun to school and shooting the kids in the classroom?
You told him to go shoot some.
No, I said that he may do it. I said that he may do it. Yeah.
You said that he can. Sure, that would not be good. Yeah.
Okay. So I did condone my son doing that?
You didn't tell him to, but like I don't think this can.
So did I condone him doing it? Yes or no?
Sure.
Okay. Well, I mean, Leviticus 25:44, God says that Israelites may own slaves. So
yeah, well, the
that
thing
would mean that
is
God is
that
condoning it too.
Well, in that culture, like it also talks about like how you should like treat slaves and how like
Yeah, he says that you could own them as human property for life.
and it was the culture in that time, right? So God was saying like, yes, so you have this time and culture.
Okay. Why are you're muddying the waters? Listen, man. At the end of the day, you said if I tell my gun that he may take a gun, you said that if I tell my son that he may take a gun to school and shoot the other kids in the school, I'd be condoning my son doing that. So thereby, if God says the same thing to his sons and daughters, that you may own slaves and you may own them as human property for life, he's condoning the slavery.
So can you pull up what's the verse that you're looking at for the slaves?
The direct language is coming from Leviticus 25, verse 44.
Leviticus 25.
Verse 40.
And then could you read it up for me, please?
Yeah, for sure. He says that your male and your female slaves may come from the countries around them. From them, you may buy and own slaves. However, you may not treat, like your brothers, as in the Israelites, as slaves. However, if they are not from Israel, if they are non-Israelites, you may own them as human property for life, and you may even bequeath them to your sons and daughters as inherited property for life. And I want you to respond to this, but then I'm going to move on because we are way off of the topic.
Yeah. I would say that, and I appreciate your time, by the way. You're a very smart person, so appreciate it. But I would say like that time and how slavery worked at that days, oftentimes they were treated very badly, right? And then, so like when God put in like Levitical laws, he just wanted to establish like how you should treat people and how you should not.
But like he still disagreed with it?
I would say like
because that's
slavery,
not true. That's not true. Because you know that he explicitly says that an Israelite can't own an Israelite as human property as life, and a non-Israelite can't own an Israelite as human property for life. So if he truly disagreed with it and thought it was morally wrong, well then why is it the case that he said that you can't do it unless you're an Israelite owning a non-Israelite as human property for life? He wasn't just simply trying to warm up the cold hearts of the Israelites at the time and introduce slow and gradual progressive change, because when there was slavery that he did truly disagree with, he ended it, such as unleashing 12 plagues or famines on Egypt, or explicitly stating that it cannot occur given that it's in the context of an Israelite owning an Israelite as human property for life. So when he says that you actually can own a non-Israelite as human property for life as a slave, insofar as you are an Israelite yourself, I am not led to believe that this was just a mirror of the culture at the time that he was going along with to warm up their cold hearts for the reasons I just gave.
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. Good point.
Well, I mean, the resolution to this is just to say that you reject Levitical law. It does not apply today, meaning that you wouldn't have an argument that it is the case that we could distinguish between the moral wrongness of sins outside of blasphemy, meaning that you would have a superimposition of your intuitions and your seemings that are outside of the Bible, not from your perfect moral standard. When you say that it is any more morally wrong in the eyes of God to get an abortion that is to lie to your children telling them that Santa Claus exists, meaning that that is an incoherent view to then say that this is merely a mirror of Christian theology to say that abortion should be illegal for this reason, and we should uphold a separation between the church and the state, meaning that you can think that abortion is morally wrong because of your Christian beliefs. However, this would give you no seemingly logical motivation to advocate for pro-life policy.
I would say there's still a hierarchy of like more evil deeds compared to other sins, right? Like
So far, you haven't been able to justify that at all.
Okay, and I think I found the verse that I was trying to reference before. It would be 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse. You go down to 6 verse 9, and it talks about how like, oh, how do you not know the unrighteous will not inherit the kingdom of God? Do not be deceived. And it talks about like the grave sins like sexual immorality, adulterers, homosexuality, thieves, greedy, drunkards, revilers, swindlers. Those people will not inherit the kingdom of God. It is like 7
Okay,
sins.
so now you're saying that there's these 7 really bad sins. Well, abortion isn't listed. So is your takeaway from this that it should be illegal to be gay, but it should be legal for a woman to get an abortion?
Like if I was in charge of the law of the land, right? I would not make necessarily being gay illegal.
Wait,
However,
didn't
I
you
would
just say
still-
that was one of the 7 great sins, and you're using this hierarchical order of the wrongness of sins to justify making abortion illegal?
Well, you're talking about like from a
Makes
legal
sense. Thank you for the
standpoint, or
galaxy.
like
Yeah, because that's what we're talking about.
about,
We're
like-
talking about how you want to use your Christian beliefs here to justify pro-life legislation. We're talking about an ultimate legal standpoint.
So yeah. So if I was in charge of the law, I would say it would be legal for if someone wants to like practice like homosexuality. Like I would say, it's 2 people and they don't adhere themselves to like Christian morals and standards. So I would say that they can do that. However,
So why don't you say the same thing about a woman getting an abortion?
Because the problem with abortion is that I would say that now you added a life into the equation, right?
How do you
And
know
since
it's any more? How do you know it's more morally wrong?
Because I would say all people are made in God's image, right? So if we're made in the image of God, that we have this intrinsic value, which would be wrong for us.
But I'm asking you why it's more morally wrong sufficient to make it illegal.
To make it abortion illegal?
Yeah. Because, so I just want to clarify, the justification that you try to provide for this idea is to list the 7 deadly sins as depicted in Corinthians, but abortion wasn't one of those, and one of those was being gay, according to you. I mean, I disagree,
No,
but
well,
I'm
the
not going to
reason
give you that argument. So if anything, the hierarchical wrongness of sins would say that being gay is more wrong than a woman getting an abortion, meaning that if anything, it should be illegal to be gay, but be legal to get an abortion under the view in which you just described.
Well, here's the thing. The reason I brought up those verses was to show that there's a hierarchy of sins being more morally not acceptable, right? So there's like a lie and there's a murder. There are obviously 2 different aspects of it. In terms of like all sin being
You're not
equal,
responding to what I said. The hierarchy that you just described said that being gay is more wrong than getting an abortion.
I wouldn't put abortion on the equivalency to like murdering someone, but I would still think it's a very severe thing.
Well, what is your justification for that? You don't have any.
It would just see like that we shouldn't take innocent life.
So we shouldn't take innocent life. So you're saying it's wrong to take innocent life. It's wrong to get an abortion. Well, that's not the question I'm asking you. I'm not asking you if abortion is wrong in accordance with Christian theology. I'm asking if you could use Christian theology and scripture from the Christian Bible to justify that it is more wrong to get an abortion than it is to lie to your children. And you just simply can't give me that justification. The justification that you tried to provide was to point out the 7 deadly sins as listed in Corinthians. Well, abortion wasn't included in those, but according to you, once again, I reject this, but I don't even want to go into that debate right now, but was that being gay was, meaning that one of those very deadly sins is being gay, meaning that if anything, in accordance with the hierarchy of sin as you described, as abortion isn't one of the deadly sins, but being gay is, this would mean that it's more wrong to be gay than is to get an abortion, meaning that the hierarchy of wrongness as described in the Christian scripture would mean that it should be illegal to be gay, but it shouldn't be illegal for a woman to get an abortion.
Yeah, so I don't have the verse on me right now, but there's a verse that talks about not sacrificing your children to Molech and how...
Just like there's a verse that says you shouldn't lie. So we're just going to use a verse from the Christian Bible that says killing babies is wrong, therefore abortion should be illegal. Lying is wrong, therefore lying should be illegal.
But like, it's
not to mention, you also just read off a verse that said it's very, very wrong to be gay, but you don't think it should be illegal to be gay.
Well, from a legal span, like if I'm in charge of, like, let's say I was in charge of a constituency of like Christians, I would say then I would make it illegal because they submit themselves to that law, right? So I would say that should be illegal in a Christian society, right?
So then your argument here is if there's an individual that doesn't submit themselves to this law, they shouldn't have to be legally held to the law, right?
Yeah.
Okay, well, if there's a woman that doesn't submit themselves to the moral law of the Christian Bible, then they shouldn't have to be legally held by the moral law of the Christian Bible. And you're using the moral law of the Christian Bible to say that they should be legally held by the standard that they shouldn't have access to abortion. You just contradicted the axiom of your argument.
But here's the thing, like, right, like if another religion wants to act how they want to act and behave, that's fine, right? But the issue comes to when you're inflicting that, like, when you're like hurting another person, that an innocent party, like that's
outside of the Bible. Outside of the Bible, that is what you're saying, but you have no reason to believe that this is mirrored in the wrongness of sins as depicted in the moral standard of God. You're operating outside of the Bible.
I'm saying that if you have an innocent third party, whether you follow morals like good or bad, that person should not be affected by your moral choices. So if you have 2 gay people, right, that's fine. Go live your life. It's just affecting you, right? If you want to go down that path, you can go down that path and that you go do it, right? But once someone that doesn't adhere to a religious standpoint comes on and inflicts harm to an innocent third party, such as a person in the womb, I would say then that's where government should step in, right? Because the point of government and laws are to protect the people that cannot protect themselves, right? So you have someone that can't defend themselves, that can't say anything, right? That's when law should help people.
Okay, so your argument is no longer that abortion should be illegal because fetuses are made in the image of God, but rather abortion should be illegal because our government should have an obligation to protect innocent human beings that can't protect themselves, correct?
That would be one of my arguments, yes.
Okay, well then you also would say that it should be legal to pull the plug on brain dead patients, since brain dead patients are human, they're alive, and they can't protect themselves from having the plug pulled on them, given the fact that they lack any and all cognitive function.
So they have the chance of waking up, but if you could tell me indefinitely, like that person will not wake up from that coma that they're in, then yeah, you can pull the plug on them.
Okay, so then you reject the standard that the state has a moral obligation to criminalize killing innocent human beings that have a lack of an ability to protect themselves, since brain dead patients would fall under that category, yet you don't think it should be illegal to pull the plug on them. So you have an incoherent argument as it relates to justifying pro-life legislation with use of Christian theology. You have an incoherent argument as it relates to trying to justify your position given this seemingly baseless moral obligation that you say that the state has, even though you just contradicted it when you said that it should be legal to pull the plug on brain dead patients. So far in our conversation today, you have not given a single coherent position to justify that women should not have legal access to abortion.
No, if you can say that person will not wake up from that coma and they're just going to be brain dead, right? That's fine, right? But the whole difference is that
then that contradicts the position, because you said that the state has a moral obligation to stop the infringement upon the right to life of humans that are alive. Just because they will never wake up, quote unquote, that doesn't mean that they're not a human that's alive.
That person has no potential for life anymore, though.
But they're still a human that's alive. So you're contradicting your position.
But I don't even think that would like necessarily like constitute as like a human being that's alive. Like once you don't have the ability to wake up anymore, then I would say that it would be fine to pull the plug on them, right? Because they won't ever be able to experience life again, right?
Okay, so if you can't experience subjective experiences, then you're dead, right? Well, bacteria, they don't have sentience and they never will. So bacteria isn't alive?
They're whether they're alive or not alive, that's regardless of the point, because like
It's
humans
not regardless of the point, because it directly refutes your claim that if you can't experience sentience now or in the future, then you're dead. This would mean that unicellular organisms and bacteria are dead because they can't experience sentience now and they never will be able to in the future.
Well, I would say that like if you a person that can't experience like sentience, then they're no longer like valuable anymore. They're not made in the image of God, right? But a bacteria is not made in the image of God. Like I would say,
whoa! Now you're equivocating. Why are you equivocating? We're not debating if the brain dead patient is valuable or made in the image of God. We're debating if the brain dead patient is human and alive. You're rejecting that they'd be alive given the fact that they don't have any future sentience. So in other words, what you're saying is regardless of all else, if you don't have future sentience, then you are dead, meaning that unicellular organisms and bacterial life forms are dead because they don't have future sentience. Don't equivocate. Don't move away from the fact that you're arguing that this life would be dead. You are not arguing that this life is valuable. You're arguing that this life is dead.
well, I would say what gives your body value.
Stop it. We're not talking about value of a life. We're talking about it if you're alive or dead.
Exactly, and I would say you are not alive if you do not have your soul anymore. Once your soul is removed, then you will no longer have any value, so you're no longer living anymore.
Oh, okay. So basically you're saying if you don't have moral value, if you don't have a soul, then you're dead, right?
Yes, if you do not have a soul, then you're dead. Yes.
Okay. Do non-humans have souls?
What define non-human?
Cows, chickens, pigs, bacteria?
So I would say soul. I would also like put like there's like spirit too. I would say like you have a soul and a spirit. So your soul is who you are as a person, and your spirit.
So answer my question: Are cows, chickens, and pigs entities with souls that are made in the image of God? Yes or no?
I don't know. Well, they're not made in the image of God.
Okay, so then cows, chickens, and pigs are dead in accordance with your view. I didn't know that dead things can like move, communicate, eat.
They're living, but they don't have value, right? So if you have a person in a coma,
But you just said if you don't have value, then you're dead. So now you're contradicting yourself.
All right, well then let me re-clarify then. If you're in a coma, right, and you're brain dead, and you will guarantee that you will not wake up from that coma, that person does not have any value to be kept alive anymore. But they are technically, I guess you could say, technically living, right? So
okay, great.
If you have
so then your stance saying that a fetus is valuable merely because it's human alive is false, because now you're saying that you could be human alive without value.
You can. Well, you're not like alive when you're like dead.
Now you're contradicting what you said 3 seconds ago. Now you're caught up. Now you're really caught up, because you just said that you could be alive without value, but now you're going back to the previous position of saying if you don't have value, then you're dead.
Bro, you got my brain twisting, bro.
I do.
Chill with that. Listen, bro. I'm reading the comments. Everyone hates me, bro. So I'll let you move on to the next guy. But like, I appreciate your conversation, though.
I appreciate you for trying. I hope that this incentivizes you to look for more justification for your views. Honestly,
bro, listen, I've done so much research on this, bro, and then like I'm pretty comfortable in my view. Like at the end of the day, though, it's like it's tricky because it's like it's a moral position. You can't ever prove it with science or whatever, right? So like it's hard to navigate it, especially if someone like doesn't adhere to Christian standards. I couldn't even argue like for like someone who's atheist to why, because like I would say like,
all right, well man, how about this? I appreciate you for coming up. I'm gonna go to move on to the next guest. Have a good rest of your day.
All right, you too, man.
We're gonna move on to the next guest. We got Tyler all types of tripped up there. I apologize if you guys wanted him out earlier. I was just going hard. I should have looked at the chat. We got Tyler all types of tripped up there. We're gonna move on. What is going on, Soup? Do you support Trump?
I do actually support Trump.
Okay, how old are you?
I am 30.
Phenomenal, man. Real quick before we hop into our debate, I got a couple of people to thank here. I'd like to thank Shasta with the $10 over on Venmo, saying thank you for everything that you do. I really appreciate you for the love, Shasta. That is SHASTA. Thank you so much. As well as Molly, thank you so much for the $5 over on Venmo as well. You are phenomenal. As well as Heather, thank you so much for the $5 on PayPal. Q with the $5 on PayPal. And Justin with the 3, and Taylor with the 4. If you're watching and you'd like to support me, you can find my Venmo and my PayPal in the link tree in my bio. I get 100% of the proceeds over on those platforms, as well as you'll be able to attach a message that I could read off on live, and that's a great way to support me and to support my work. But why don't you take it away? Tell us why you support Trump.
So I pretty much support Trump because he actually speaks for everybody else, and I'm just saying that as an opinion to myself because I kind of agree with everything that he says.
Oh boy. Even Charlie Kirk disagrees with you. Charlie Kirk put up a tweet 3 days ago saying that 60% of Americans, a majority of Americans, do not want war with Iran. And Donald Trump then started war with Iran, meaning that he doesn't speak for a majority of Americans according to his biggest shill that has ever lived.
So why do you think he did what he did to Iran?
Okay, that question doesn't need to be answered as it is relevant to our conversation. If Donald Trump does what people want him to do and speaks for the majority, once again, you said that you support Trump because he speaks for the majority. My counter argument was to point out that even Donald Trump's largest shill disagrees. And he left. Okay. All right. We are going to go ahead and move on to the next guest at this point. Okay, chat, do I need to calm it down a little bit? Or I feel like we're tripping up these guests like too quickly. Like with that last guy, like Luke or whatever his name was, he sure as hell was like hanging in there. I had a long conversation with him, but he was getting tripped up like really, really easily. And then that guy got tripped up in less than 30 seconds. I mean, that was a fucking speed run. I guess, do we need to calm it down a little bit? I don't even know. We're going to go ahead and move on to the next guest, everybody. Everyone give us a minute to get that next guest loaded into the live. Guys, if you're in that queue, make sure that means that you're at least 18 from America and support Trump. What's going on, Anonymous? Oh, and you're not loaded into the live. Hop back into that queue. I'll happily get you back up in here. You just got a little bit of an error. Because it wasn't showing that you were connected. We're going to move on to Alex. And while we are, oh my God, Noah! Dude, Noah, with the $100 super chat over on YouTube. Noah, my man, holy shit, I do not deserve that. That is so much money. Noah says, yeah, if the Confederacy used the Bible to justify slavery, it doesn't really have a strong moral stance. There are around 30 distinct passages in the Old and New Testament that defend or regulate slavery. And I'll even add on to that, Noah, there's not one that condemns it. Fun fact, thank you for the $100 super chat over on YouTube. That is fucking preposterous. I want to see W Noahs down below in that live chat for at least the next 10 minutes. That is seriously so incredibly kind of you. Thank you so much. And I would also like to thank Alana, ALANA, for the $5 over on Venmo. And Madison, thank you for the $20 over on PayPal. Madison says, hey, Dean, thank you for educating the masses, sending tons of love. Tons of love to you too, Madison. Thank you for tuning in. Show some love to Noah and Madison down below in that queue. Thank you so much for being here, you guys. Go ahead and unmute that mic and take it away. Do you support Trump?
What's up, Dean? How you doing? I voted for him as a first-time Republican voter, and I supported him in his campaign because it was refreshing to see a politician at least sound like he believes in what he's saying. I am now definitely on the fence. The three biggest issues for me is immigration, foreign policy, and economy, and I feel like I've been played, honestly.
Dude, Alex, I feel like having a conversation with you at this point isn't even the best thing to do. The best thing for you to do is to listen to these conversations as a viewer.
I don't learn. Okay, to be
you're saying that you feel like you've been played.
You don't.
Absolutely.
Bro. Okay, you don't, bro. To be fair though, you don't congratulations on everything you've done. I've seen your face pop around. You somehow snuck into my algorithm, but I mean, join what side? Like, what do you like? There's no side,
Oh, I didn't say that you need to join any side. I said that it would probably be productive to you to watch the stream, so I could even help prove to you further that you have been played. And I think that's awesome that you're starting to wake up and acknowledge and reflect that fact. But if there was one side I would advocate for you to join right now, that would be the right side of history, right? And that side is anti-Trump, anti-Maga, and today anti-GOP.
That is absurd, right? The reason why I have issues with Trump's campaign is the same people that would be in power if Kamala was in power are making the decisions now. Are you going to acknowledge that Israel is a U.S. military base? Are you going to acknowledge if all the funding that we've given Israel in the last 10 years, they have a number 3 biggest military, that Israel is the United States, vice versa? So you're basically saying that Israel leverages a lot of control and power over the U.S. regardless if it would have been like Trump or Harris? Absolutely.
To an extent, I can agree. I can agree to a little bit of an extent. But what I will say here is that seemingly Donald Trump was more likely to work with Israel, bend the knee, and jump as high as they wanted to at their request compared to Kamala Harris. Does this mean that Kamala Harris was anti-Israel? No. Does this mean that Kamala Harris wasn't pro-Israel? Absolutely not, because she was. But Donald Trump seems more willing to jump as high as they want than anybody we saw on the left.
Yeah. Okay. A point I would like your thoughts on this with, say the DNC. I was a Bernie Sanders supporter, for example. Wow. It doesn't seem like they've had a legitimate election. I mean, that's an insane thing to say, but it does really appear like that since Obama.
So you're talking about how they pushed Bernie out in 2016. I agree, dude. Bernie got fucked. Okay, and I think that like anybody that recognizes that fact,
Andrew Yang
is like totally justified in holding like some resentment against the DNC. I'm not gonna lie. Okay, fuck yeah, hold some resentment against the DNC for absolutely fucking over Bernie. But that doesn't mean go pro-fascism. But anyways, Alex, you said that you were kind of teeter-tottering on that line. You said that you felt played. I feel like the better place for you is to be watching conversations between me and individuals that don't feel played and actively support Trump. So I'm going to move on just because there's not much of a debate here, but I appreciate you for your time. Take care. Moving on to the next guest. Let's go to get that next guest up in the box, everybody. We got Andrew loading into the stream right now. And Tatiana, thank you for the $10 over on Venmo, saying thanks for talking to those who can't. I appreciate you for the love, Tatiana. That is so incredibly kind. Thank you so much. As well as Nicole with the $10 saying keep on fighting the good fight. I appreciate that. And Gara with the $5 saying the same thing as well. I appreciate y'all so much. Yeah, how did he go from Trump to Bernie, bro? That has to be one of the craziest pipelines ever. Like, I understand, once again, having some resentment against the DNC for what they did to Bernie is valid. Okay, but like going full pro-fascism because of that is nuts. What's going on, Piper? You support Trump? Looks like... Oh, Piper, are you here?
Yeah, sorry.
Hey, are you guys pro-Trump?
Yes, pro-Trump.
Okay, how old are you?
19.
19? Phenomenal. Well, take it away. Tell us why you support the worst president of your lifetime, of your parents' lifetimes. Take it away.
Okay, well, I am curious why you think he's the worst, but I support Trump because I like closed borders. Puts the U.S. interest first, especially regarding like the immigrants and trade. Men out of women's sports, because I strongly believe in like men and women. There's only two different genders. That's pretty obvious. I also believe in kind of cutting the taxes down on corporate tax rate. There's a bunch of reasons. Right to Try Act. I believe his stance on abortion, gay pride, there's a lot of things I support about him.
Okay, all right. Well, let's try to attack all of those real quick. Now, there's going to be a couple things that you just said that I'm going to latch onto here, and let's have a conversation about this. But before we do, I got to thank Amir for the 28 Canadian dollars over on YouTube Super Chat. Thank you so much. I'll happily answer that question in a bit after this debate. But guys, let's get 300 Amir W's down below. That is AMIR. Thank you so much for the love. One thing that you said there that I really want to latch onto real quick is, that you think men and women, two distinct different genders, need to be separated. So how do you feel like a man walked into the changing room or bathroom of teenage girls or grown adult women? Would you really hate that man?
Okay, well, I don't hate anybody because I'm also a very strong Christian. But would I think it's wrong for a grown man to walk in and see basically underage, so they're like children,
right?
Changing? Yeah, I think that's pedophile. You're watching little girls change. That's really weird.
And if they did that intentionally just to watch the little girls change, what should be done to that man?
They should be arrested.
Okay. Do you think that they should ever be eligible to run for any public office ever?
If they were convicted, then...
Yeah. We just knew for a fact that they did this. Should they ever be eligible to run?
Well, it depends what you mean they knew for a fact.
We just certainly knew that they did this. Maybe they admitted to it. I don't know.
Okay, well, if they knew for a fact and they were arrested for it and charged with
just we know for a fact that they've done this. Maybe they... How about, let's imagine some fucking dystopian nightmare, okay? I don't know. Entertain my hypothetical here. Let's imagine a dystopian nightmare where a man did this to underage naked teenage girls and grown adult women. Then he boasted about doing it. He paraded it like an accomplishment. Then nothing happened to him. And then he ran for the presidency and won the presidency. That's a dystopian fucking nightmare, right?
Okay, so this is where I disagree. If he was charged with a crime and he was arrested, that's without a reasonable doubt, because, the justice system. So then, yes, I would think that he shouldn't be able to run because he was convicted felon of, sexual...
Okay, so if we knew that he did this beyond a reasonable shadow of a doubt, this is never a president you'd support.
Well, if he was convicted and thrown in prison, because
you're not listening to what I said. So why would the conviction matter?
because that's without a reasonable doubt. If he wasn't convicted,
Okay, so a conviction is only a means to the end of acknowledging that we know it's true beyond a reasonable shadow of a doubt, right? So
What do
you
you
really
mean?
care about that end result of knowing it's true beyond a reasonable shadow of a doubt, right?
the thrown in jail part, yes.
Okay. So at the end of the day, if we know that a president has done this beyond a reasonable shadow of a doubt, you would really vehemently stand against that president, correct?
Okay, well, I don't know how strong you're saying it, because I guess it would depend on the situation, so I can't say, definitively.
Well, I mean, let's just conceive of a situation. Now, I'd like to clarify, Trump hasn't done this. I have a lot of critiques of Trump. This isn't something he's done. I'm feeling some hesitancy from you answering these questions, and I think maybe it's because you think that I'm trying to get at that this is something Trump has done. Be honest, is that where the hesitancy is coming from?
I'm just confused by your question.
Yeah, sure. Because I'm just genuinely curious, and honestly, this was just a small little side point that has now started a huge conversation, and I feel like that's because we're kind of speaking past each other here. So let's just try to consolidate and get a quick yes or no. Maybe we could agree, then just move on to something different. But I'd like to clarify this isn't something that Trump has done. He's a good man. So if some old-ass guy did this, I walked into the changing rooms of underage teens, boasted about how good their boobs look, etc., and then for whatever fucking reason, nobody ever held him accountable, but we knew for certain that he'd done this because he literally admitted to it, then ran for the presidency and won the presidency, would that be a dystopian nightmare?
So the admission wouldn't mean anything to me because, people say crazy stuff and they lie, which again, I would say they would have to be convicted. But if I guess, you're saying, if I saw it with my own eyes, then yes, I would think he shouldn't be able to run. If I saw it and witnessed it, then I could say, without a reasonable doubt, yes, because I witnessed it.
Okay, so here's a clip of Donald Trump admitting to perving on underage naked teenagers and grown adult women.
Conflict?
Yes.
I don't see it as a conflict.
It could be a conflict of interest, but it's the kind of thing you worry about later.
Oh, I see.
You tend to think about the conflict a little bit later on.
The question is, how can it not be construed?
No, I mean, some of these foreign girls, Mr. Trump, in my country, we say hello with the vagina. And,
Well, you could also say, as the owner of the pageant, it's your obligation to do that.
So you have done that. Now,
I'll tell you the funniest is that I'll go backstage before a show.
Yes.
And everyone's getting dressed and ready and everything else. And, no men are anywhere. And I'm allowed to go in because I'm the owner of the pageant, and therefore I'm inspecting it. I'm inspecting. I want to make sure that
You're like a
everything
doctor.
is good.
You're there.
Yeah, the dress. Is everyone okay? They're standing there with no clothes. Is everybody okay? And you see these incredible-looking women, and so I sort of get away with things like that.
Well, I'm only going to assume, since we already know that Piper is a good faith, rational person, that definitely won't be a hypocrite and go back at our word 30 seconds after she said she wanted to support Trump if he did this. We can only assume that now, Piper, you are an anti-Trump, anti-MAGA patriot that thinks we're living in a dystopian nightmare, right?
I wouldn't necessarily pick him maybe, to be my dad, because I think that would be pretty creepy. But I do support him as a president, because, I'm supporting the welfare of the United States, and more so, the things he's going to be passing and stuff like that, the decisions he's going to be making, with legislative decisions and how he's going to be representing America. We want a strong.
Well, one second. We gotta listen to this real quick. Yeah, for sure. Because I'm just genuinely curious, and honestly, this was just a small little side point. Let me skip to the part. Let's just move on to good man. So, if some old ass guy did this, I walked into the changing rooms of underage teens, boasted about how good their boobs look, etc., and then for whatever fucking reason. Nobody ever held him accountable, but we knew for certain that he'd done this because he literally admitted to it, then ran for the presidency and won the presidency. Would that be a dystopian nightmare?
So the admission wouldn't mean anything to me because, people say crazy stuff and they lie, which again, I would say they would have to be convicted. But if I guess, you're saying, if I saw it with my own eyes, then yes, I would think he shouldn't be able to run. If I saw it and witnessed it, then I could say, without a reasonable doubt, yes, because I witnessed it.
Okay, So do we see how there, you knew, if you witnessed it, or you knew beyond a reasonable shadow of a doubt that this is something he had done, that he shouldn't be able to run for the presidency, he shouldn't be able to be the president. So you did witness him admitting to it.
But I meant if I witnessed it with my own eyes.
So him literally admitting to it just isn't enough evidence for you.
Did you not hear the part where I said if they lie? People will lie.
Donald Trump was lying about Donald Trump perving on underage naked teenage girls?
Possibly. I wasn't there to witness it.
Well, that's ridiculous. So this is what we call cult behavior. This is what we call mental gymnastics. You sound insane, Piper. Okay, the reason why you sound insane is because you can listen to a clip of Donald Trump admitting to being a P3DO, and then your takeaway is, well, I don't believe it, because what if he was lying? Well, okay, people don't typically lie about bad things that they've done for no reason at all.
For friends all the time, so that's definitely not true. But let's move on to the facts, because that's what I really want to focus on.
It's a fact that Donald Trump admitting to doing something that you think would make him ineligible for the presidency. That's a fact.
All right, let's move on again to the next thing, because I know you understand, or in your opinion, you think like he's a pervert. So okay, that's
it would be your opinion too if you weren't a member of a cult.
Well, I don't know why you're attacking my character whenever we're just talking about the pros and cons of the president.
Well, am I supposed to lie?
No, I just thought we were talking about the facts, not like your opinion on if he's like a pedophile. So
you're the one that said if an old man did this, they'd be one of those. Come on.
I didn't say that. I said if I
should we roll the instant replay on that too? That was at the beginning of a conversation.
Let's move to the next thing, please.
Okay, running away. All right. Fine. We'll talk about multiple things. I'm fine with it. Now, before we do, I got to thank a couple people. Kelly, this was 4 minutes ago. Kelly, you were so incredibly kind. Kelly, thank you for the $50 over on Venmo. Oh my God, Kelly. Kelly says, keep it up, Dean. Much respect for the work and putting in the hours to debate these MAGA potatoes. Thank you for the love, dude. Let's get 500 Kelly W's. Kelly, that is so much money. That is so incredibly kind of you. I do not deserve that. Thank you so much for your generosity. Show some love to Kelly down below in that box, as well as Emiliano with the $20 over on Venmo saying, hey, Dean, just want to say thank you for all that you do. You inspire me to want to learn more about politics and be on the right side of history. Emiliano, that is awesome. That is Emiliano. Thank you, Kelly and Emiliano. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much, so much for the love. Show some love to Kelly and Emiliano down below in that chat, y'all. As well as David for the $5 over on Venmo. Thank you so much. And Melinda with the $5 on PayPal. Thank you guys so much for your kindness, your generosity, and your donations. And once again, if you're watching and you like what I'm doing here and you want to support me, you can find my Venmo and my PayPal in the link tree in my bio. Now, I guess we're going to let Piper down here move on. I mean, I hopefully would be able to assume that the reason Piper down here wants to move on is because Piper just knows that she lost on that last point. But once again, member of a cult can't admit it. But we'll talk about multiple things. So take it away, Piper.
I want to ask why you think he's like evil and the worst president, because I think that would help me kind of like, be able to defend or maybe like add my point of view into it.
That is a great question. So I call him the worst president of our lifetimes because A, he's contradicted every single promise that he's ran on. He said that he was pro-peace and better for global tensions. There's not a single global conflict that's gotten better in the last 150 days. Now we're directly involved in war in the Middle East again. Okay. He said that he was going to slash prices on day one, but then he introduced tariffs in which increased the pricing of goods for consumers. And once again started war in Iran, acknowledging that now that they're saying that they're going to shut down the Strait of why am I now forgetting the name of a strait? They're going to shut down a strait that they control and which oversees 20% of the daily oil global consumption. And when they do that, you're going to be paying significantly more for everything. So we're going to be experiencing more inflation. He ran on fiscal conservatism, meaning that he wants to cut waste in government expenditure, but now he wants to spend twice as much as every penny spent in the last 4 years on non-COVID related expenditure under the Biden-Harris administration on one bill. He said that he's going to run on tax cuts for the average American. According to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, he's actually going to increase the taxes on the average American. And so he's just contradicted everything he ran on. Another thing is he's a grave threat to the Constitution and our democracy. In 2020, tried to steal and rig an election and then admitted to it in court, as well as he called explicitly for the termination of the American Constitution and has violated it 5 times since his presidency begun. And see, his character sucks. He's a perv, he's a P3DO, and as well as he's an adjudicated rapist. Not to mention he's also very racist. He called all black people lazy in the 90s and then said that we shouldn't vote for Obama because he was born in Kenya, even though he's a birth certificate from Hawaii. The only reason why he'd say that is because Obama's black. He's very misogynistic. So he said that the best thing that could ever happen to a woman is pregnancy, and elected justices to SCOTUS to overturn Roe v. Wade, which has directly led to 66 million human rights violations on behalf of American women and girls. That includes 60 pregnant rape victims that are denied access to abortion in 10 of our 50 states per day, and women such as Adriana Smith being treated as literal human incubators because of pro-life legislation that he and women he has allowed states to enact, such as Georgia's heartbeat ban, which is on its own a dystopian hellscape where women are literally human incubators. So, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of reasons right there. Take it away.
All right, that was a lot. So which one is the most important to you so I can address that one?
You get to choose what you want to respond to. Either the fact that he's contradicted everything he's ran on, the fact that he's a threat to the democracy, the fact that he's a threat to the Constitution, or the fact that he is a terrible, deplorable character, perv, racist, misogynist, rapist.
Okay, so for the contradicting, I think things are different whenever you get into presidency. Like maybe you think you can overturn things, but then you realize like, oh, this actually takes like a lot more, power than I have, because presidents don't have full, complete power like the Senate and the House. So I think that could lead to like why some things he's contradicting. But I
Then
guess
why would he run in the first place? Because he would know this, because he already served one term.
that's what I was gonna say. So he should have known that, after the second term. I do think he has kept up some of his bargains. For example, I like the wall, build a wall to keep some of the immigrants out. I think he did try to cut the taxes. I think it is really hard, especially with, inflation. He did try to come in, have Elon Musk and everyone come in and cut the federal employees that weren't doing their jobs. So I think he's at least attempted. I think he's also still relatively new.
Elon doesn't like Trump now because Donald Trump wanted to add significantly more to the debt than Elon could cut.
He's also just hurt that he didn't get to stay in and help because, they had that rule. I think it was like 90 days or whatever it was.
So is it just a lie that Elon was only able to cut 125 billion and the BBB is estimated by the CBO to cost us 4 to 5 trillion then?
What?
So is it just a lie that Elon was only able to cut $120 billion and the BBB, the Big Beautiful Bill, is estimated to cost anywhere from 4 to 5 trillion?
Why would that be? I'm confused what you're asking. Why are you asking if it was a lie?
Because I'm proving to you that, Donald Trump is spending significantly more than Elon could cut.
Well, he's at least attempting to cut it. It's better than just continuously growing and growing it like it's been doing.
Well, you understand that the debt is now continuously growing and growing at a faster rate than it would be if Kamala Harris was elected, because, once again, he's spending significantly more than what is being cut.
Wait, I'm sorry. What was that? The Kamala Harris?
The debt's going to be growing faster now under Trump than it would have grown if Kamala Harris was president.
Why do you think it'd be growing faster now than it would if she was president?
Because she wanted to spend less money.
Okay, she wanted to, but that doesn't mean she necessarily would have, so that's not a fair statement to make.
Oh, well, it's actually unfair for you to assume that she would have just taken all the policies she ran on and folded and become a dystopian nightmare that's somehow worse than what we already have. That's a baseless, speculative, and honestly, copian, a cope. That is a cope, okay? Because I'm going off of the policy that she ran on. In accordance with the policy that she ran on, she would have spent significantly less than Trump. And I guess your refutation of that is to say, oh, well, what if when she was elected, she just became worse than Trump and spent significantly more? We know evidence to indicate that was the case. The track record of the Biden-Harris administration is doing what they promised and doing good by the American people and spending half as much as what Donald Trump spent in his first term. So stop coping.
Okay, well, I'm just saying you can't tell the future, so you don't get to sit here and say, Kamala Harris would have cut spending. How has Trump added to spending? What is he spending it on that you think he's added it to?
Yeah, for sure. The BBB, that's estimated to cost $4 to $5 trillion.
What?
The Big Beautiful Bill, estimated to cost $4 to $5 trillion.
Okay, and do you know how much Medicare and Medicaid have costed? And what percent of the budget they take up?
A lot?
A significant amount. So maybe we should...
And?
That.
You know what takes up more than Medicaid or Medicare, which help people? You know what takes up more than Medicaid and Medicare, and which keeps people alive?
But it's not like he's throwing money out the window, which is wasting money. Like he's spending on necessary things.
Oh, so it's necessary to cut the after-tax income of the bottom 20% earners by $2,200 per year, while increasing the after-tax income for the top 1% of income earners by $25,000 per year? That's necessary to do. It's necessary to be Robin Hood for the rich. Why is that?
Well, maybe because if they're business owners, that will lower the things we're trying to buy. It's like, how groceries are super expensive and products are super expensive. Well, if the businesses have a tax cut, then they can also put that on their products to make them less expensive so we can afford more.
Well, that's not what happened when he cut it from 35% to 25% in his first term. A study from Brookings told us that there was no new macro-level business reinvestment that followed his massive tax cuts the first go-around. So why would that happen this time? Also, that was the idea of trickle-down economics as presented to America under Reagan and Reaganomics. But after trickle-down economics was signed into law, we saw a stagnation in worker wages with an increase in worker productivity. And the reason being is that super rich mega business owners are greedy and they hoard the additional revenue in which they would collect because it would be taxed at a lower rate if they take it out of the business. In fact, higher corporate tax rates incentivize more business reinvestment because they wouldn't pay that higher corporate tax rate on that business reinvestment.
So you're saying whenever he cut it from 35 to 21%, the richer or the rich people got richer. Do you have any statistics to show that they earned more money? Like, do you have any statistics to show? Maybe like.
Yeah. So I have a deductive argument. So they were taxed less. Brookings' study showed us that there's no new macro level business reinvestment. So if they had more money and they weren't putting that money into their businesses, then the only other place they could put it is into their bank accounts.
But do you have any evidence to show that they increased their wealth, I guess you would say?
Yeah, I just laid it out to you. The study from a financial institution by the names of Brookings, which showed us that there was no new macro level business reinvestment. If it wasn't going back into the business, it was going into their bank account. I mean, if it wasn't going back into their business, what do you think they do with it? Just light it on fire? No, it goes into their bank.
How do you know they didn't reinvest it back into their business? That one statistic, but how are they like...
Oh, yeah, because of the Brookings study that said that there's no new macro level business reinvestment on set by the first round of Donald Trump's tax cuts.
Okay, but how did they gain that evidence is what I'm trying to ask. Like, yes, I understand you read that article and they said there was no macro level investment, but how did they, I guess, figure that out?
By looking at macro level business investment in America, particularly reinvestment by American companies, by isolating for external impacts such as the pandemic, such as general continued macroeconomic trends, and merely evaluating the implications of the first round of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act and what their impact would have been on macro level business reinvestment. It's a rather large study from a very reputable financial institution. So I mean, I'm going to trust it.
Can I ask why you think he's continuing to try to lower the taxes for businesses? If he doesn't, like, he's obviously a smart man, he became president. So why do you think he was doing that then?
He's not a smart man.
When he became president, I think he at least need to be a little bit smart. And he owns multiple
A week ago, he
businesses.
said that Biden was executed and replaced with a robotic clone.
Okay, we also all know he likes to use Twitter and say things.
Yeah, so when I have damning evidence that he's dumb as hell, you just call it a troll. Get real.
He likes to troll. What do you mean?
Get real. This is such a cope. Dude, like, imagine, okay, can you name a really dumb person real quick?
I guess Biden. He sounds really stupid on TV. He like mumbles.
Give me one example of Biden being stupid.
On TV, the debate.
Oh, on
He's like,
TV? Oh, he was just trolling. He was trolling you. You idiot. He was trolling you.
obviously, I'm not dumb. Anyone can watch him on TV and see he's incoherent.
No, he was trolling you. He was acting like he was incoherent for the memes.
That's not fair to say that. Whenever I watch it with my own eyes.
Right. So then when Donald Trump says that Biden was executed and replaced with a robotic clone, it's not fair to assume that he was trolling. Or when Donald Trump lies about the outcomes of the 2020 election, he's so delusional he thought he won even though there's no evidence to indicate that. It's not fair to say that he was like trolling or that he actually won. Come on, man. See, now you get my point.
Okay, I would have to disagree with you there. Because I can definitely tell he's trolling. I guess anyone that can hear his tone or knows the president would have to agree, especially that Biden sounded incoherent.
Okay, so you know Trump.
Not personally.
Okay, so then what do you know about Trump that makes you know that he's trolling?
So can we focus on something else?
You want to focus on... Yeah.
Well, it's not contributing to anything, so like next point.
Yeah, next point, for sure. No, for sure. Come on, go ahead.
What does that mean?
No, just move on to the next point. What's the next argument? Don't worry, dude. I'll gag you in any discussion of topic. I'm ready. I'm ready. Give it to me. What's next?
Do you believe in closed borders?
Do I believe in closed borders? What do you mean by closed borders?
As in, like, you shouldn't be able to come into America illegally. Like, there should be
illegally. So, like, okay. If you're asking me if I think that there should be undocumented entry, so I don't think there should be undocumented entry. No. And if you classify that as closed borders, then I agree with closed borders. But I just don't think that Trump is really fixing the root cause of undocumented entry. The root cause of undocumented entry that grants so much incentive for it is going to be unattainable legal means of entry. So in other words, the ultimate way to fix the issue of undocumented entry is to make the legal means of entry into America significantly better. Do you care about the American economy?
Wait, I have a question though. What do you mean by better?
Repeat the sentence that I said, and I'll tell you the context in which I meant by better.
You think the process should be better, so I would think you mean or more lenient.
So it should be faster, less expensive, more attainable.
So do you think we should expand, like the workforce. That way they can all get to it because the government's like extremely busy. So maybe like expand maybe the budget a little bit and give it more to the border control.
Yeah, I think that we should expend funding towards border control and implement new congressional legislation to expedite the pathways to citizenship, residency, asylum, refugee status, etc., by hiring more judges and changing, maybe some of like the legislative prerogatives and standards and so on.
Okay.
So
Okay,
let me ask you a question. Do you care about the American economy?
Of course, I live here.
So would you say that like policy in which destroys the American economy is America last policy?
Policies that destroy the American economy. Well, yeah.
Oh, okay. So you think that mass deportation is an American last policy because it destroys the American economy by reducing GDP growth by an estimated 1.1 trillion through 1.7 trillion dollars per year, costing $2 trillion over the next 10 years, and significantly weakening our economy and industries, increasing poverty, which increases crime, right?
Well, okay, hold on here. That was a lot. I think so. You're asking about deportation, like we should deport.
Yeah, mass deportation destroys the American economy, and you agreed policies that do that are American last.
Increasing our GDP, that's not the right way to increase it then. There should be other ways. We shouldn't be increasing it through like the work of legal immigrants, like whether I think they should have a home here, because I think everyone.
Okay, so you're basically saying that, mass deportation does destroy the American economy. Meaning that's American last policy, but we still yet shouldn't just let undocumented immigrants work as undocumented immigrants, meaning that we should find some other solution. You're actually on the correct train of thought here. That other solution would be mass amnesty for undocumented immigrants. But of course, now you're going to be like, no. We should not be offering undocumented immigrants a pathway to residency or citizenship in this country because they entered illegally and they need to get out. And then that feeds right back into the position that mass deportation is American last policy since it destroys the economy and increases rates of poverty and crime, even though there's alternative ways of reducing the amount of undocumented immigrants in this country to zero by offering them pathways to residency or citizenship.
Okay, well, I'm honestly getting a lot of hate right now, and I appreciate the conversation, and I really am just learning, and I really enjoyed this. I'm going to take everything that you said into account, and I will be doing research and stuff, but like as a debater, and I like went on here to debate with you, like I don't think that I should be receiving so much hate, and like I feel like more people would maybe want to debate with you if people weren't sending me death threats right now.
No, I actually agree with you. This is the one thing we can agree on. I mean, we talked about this yesterday for everybody listening. Don't send death threats to the people that I debate. That's not condoned or supported by me whatsoever. I think that that's wrong. I think that's something that we shouldn't do. And if there is anybody that's doing that, I'll ban you from the stream. And I would also say that, this isn't necessarily an example of the guest crying here, just because like what she's saying is true. Right, like individuals that come up to debate me shouldn't have death threats in their inbox, and when individuals that do come up and debate me do have death threats in their inbox, it does definitely make it harder to get debates. So what she's saying is true here.
Okay, well, thank you for your opinion.
Right, I do really hope that you consider some of the things that I said, and I think that you have incredibly abhorrent views, such as like related to the first thing that we discussed, of you just simply not caring that the president is a perv. And I don't want that to be forgotten, even though I'm saying that you don't deserve death threats. I think two things can be true at the same time. Have a good rest of your day.
Of course, thank you. Bye.
We're going to move on to the next guest, everybody. Give us a minute to get that next guest up in the box. If you are in that queue, make sure that means that you're an American adult that's at least 18 that is ready to come up here and have a discussion with me about why you support Trump, y'all. And we are just looking for people that do indeed support Trump. That is right. And oh my Lord, Marilyn, thank you so much for the $50 super chat over on the YouTube stream. Jesus, Marilyn, that is so incredibly kind of you. Can we get 500 Marilyn W's down below? 500 Marilyn W's down below. Now, Marilyn didn't attach it like a message or anything here. But Marilyn, thank you so much for the love. That is so incredibly kind. Show some love to Marilyn down below. Thank you so much for your kindness and your support of my efforts on here. That is so incredibly kind. As well as Ali, thank you for the $50 on Venmo, saying spent the day taking care of myself. Would like you to use this to take care of yourself. You deserve it. Oh my God. Wait, I'm going to use that to go like get a dinner or something later. Thank you for the $50, Ali. Dude, let's see some love for Ali and Marilyn down below. You guys are so kind. As well as Jazia with the $20 saying keep on educating people. Dean for president. I don't know about that, but I'll definitely continue to educate people. And I really thank you for your support of my work. Show some love to Jazia down below in those comment sections for the $20 donation. Thank you so much. It seriously means the world. Jazia, Ali, and Marilyn. You guys are awesome. Show some love to Jazia, Ali, and in Maryland. What is going on? Mr. Adrian, do you support Trump?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, Mr. Corpse Husband. Can you speak up a little bit?
Yeah.
Phenomenal. Maybe get a little bit closer to that mic. Like, for instance, if this is the phone that you're talking to me through, get all like up here, say, yeah, I support Trump. Like talk to me through it like this.
Yes, I support Trump.
Okay. All right. Why do you support the worst president of your life?
Well, I mean, I don't know why you say the worst president. I mean, I think I'm in my 40s. I'm not very political on any agenda or anything. I don't think any president who, you probably like Biden. He didn't do anything beneficial for the country. I don't think any president's going to do anything beneficial to the country because everybody's always going to find pros and cons. But the thing is that I believe that whoever's in leadership, we should just take it as it is because he was voted in by the people, by the majority, and that's what it is.
Yeah, so
Joe
that's
Biden-
what leads to people like Hitler. That's what leads to people like Stalin. That's what leads to people like Mussolini. Just saying that we should take it as it is and accept the leadership that we have is basically saying that we're just going to give total and complete and unilateral control to whoever's in power. The way that we hold those in power accountable is by protesting against bad things that they do and supporting good things that they do and having critical and nuanced dialogue about the efficacy of the admin and the pros and the cons of the administration and revoking our support from them if they do not deserve it. I would say as a general rule of thumb, respect is earned, and that general rule of thumb must be true for a productive society as it relates to respect and support shown to the leaders of the society. There should be nobody with more of a spotlight of accountability and criticism on them than those in which hold the most power in the world, and the most powerful position in the world is the presidency of America.
True, but like I said, we live in a democracy. We don't live in. That's why we have freedom of religion, freedom of press, freedom of everything. There's other countries that don't have that, and
so because other countries don't have freedom of religion, therefore we should support Trump. Wait, so you support Trump because other countries don't have freedom of religion?
No. I'm just saying.
So,
no,
did you know that Donald Trump doesn't want freedom of religion? Yeah, in 2015, he advocated for a total and complete shutdown of all new Muslims coming into America.
Because of what's going on overseas.
Boom! All of a sudden, you're no longer for a democracy with freedom of religion. Look at you go.
No. We have rules and laws, and if you don't want to partake in those laws, even though we live in a free country, we still have to have peace and order. And in order to have peace and order, there has to be things that are stopped, banned.
So, yeah, you're basically now saying that not having freedom of religion is required for peace and order. Look at you. You dude, oh my God, you are a great mouthpiece for authoritarian regimes. You're a great, look at you go. So you haven't given us a single reason why you support Trump. You're just kind of like rambling about like irrelevant shit, such as the idea that there's not freedom of religion in other countries. And then as soon as I demonstrate that that's not even something that Trumps want, all of a sudden you're like, well, fuck freedom of religion, because if we have freedom of religion, we won't have peace and order. You're either going to give us a reason why you support Trump, or I'm just going to move on to the next guest.
There's plenty of things I can tell you, but then you're gonna, like you just said, you're gonna spew out shit.
I'm gonna debate you. Yeah, this is a debate live. That's right.
No, you're gonna spew out things that whatever you believe is right.
Oh wow! I'm gonna talk about why I think you're wrong. Wow, that's just terrible of me. Honestly, throw me in jail.
No, it's just that there's always going to be a difference of opinions, and whatever you believe is whatever you believe.
Okay, so are you here to debate, or are you here to not debate? Which one is it?
You're not going to debate. You're going to point out your useless and pointless arguments. And the thing is that
that's what a debate is. So you just said, Dean, you're not going to debate. You're going to debate. Very nice.
Yeah, I said your useless argument. So you're saying your stuff is useless.
Okay. So you just came up here to say, Dean, whatever you have to say is useless. Fuck you. That's super cool of you. I bet you have very high IQ, sir.
It doesn't take a high IQ to understand that you have differences of opinions. Everybody's going to have differences of opinions.
Okay, so you came up here to tell me that we disagree? Is that all? Because I'm here to debate why we disagree. So do you want to debate that or not? I don't know.
I don't know what you want to debate on.
Why? Read that, please. What does that say?
Yeah, there's many things to support Trump for.
Okay, like
what do you want to talk about?
That. Mercedes, thank you for the motorcycle. This is what I want to talk about. So why do you support Trump?
He's a great president. I think whatever he's doing for our country is good.
Okay, like what?
His immigration policies are good.
Okay, what specifically about his immigration policies are good?
Getting rid of people that we don't need here.
Mass deportation. Okay, name one good outcome of mass deportation on American society. Be very specific.
Everybody's. What do you mean mass deportation? How many people has he deported?
How many individuals has he deported? I'm unaware of his specific numbers, but his policy is mass deportation.
How do you know it's a mass deportation then?
Because he wants to deport every single undocumented immigrant in America. That's what a mass deportation is.
Okay, if there's no numbers to support it, then how can you say it's a mass deportation?
Because he says that he wants to deport every single undocumented immigrant in this country.
Yeah, which is part of the law.
Okay, so that's why I say it's a mass deportation. So, name one good outcome of mass deportation on American society. Be very specific.
Are you saying that it is good because it's a part of the law? It's been written.
Oh, okay. So you're saying it's good to do because it's the law?
Yeah, we don't need people in here that are here illegally.
Great. So let me ask you a question. If you were alive in America 200 years ago when it was the law to return an escaped enslaved individual back to their captor, right? That was a fugitive slave clause. Would you say that it'd be a good thing to return the enslaved person?
Yeah,
Oh, wow. Look at you. Now you're a Nazi.
How am I a Nazi?
Yeah, because you just said it'd be a good thing to forcefully return escaped enslaved individuals back to their captors.
There was different laws back then, so whatever you would have to abide by. I mean, I'm not saying slavery is good. It's never been good. But, I mean...
Oh, but slavery was a law.
Yeah, maybe
Are you saying that laws aren't always good?
So did your family ever own slaves at one point?
I don't know. B, I don't know the relevance of the question.
Yeah, you don't know because,
Because I haven't researched my family tree?
Because they probably did.
Too much? At least on my dad's side. Well, at least I know. I don't understand the relevance of this.
Are you going to be paying reparations because your family owned slaves?
So I want to clarify. Instead of you told me that you support mass deportation. I point out the fact. Okay. So what is the relevance of your?
Because I have family that has been waiting in line for very many years to get into the.
Okay. So I support reparations. I do. But that question is neither here nor there as it relates to my challenge of your position in support of mass deportation. Keep in mind the way that we've gotten here is by you saying that the good outcome of mass deportation is because it is the law. You're basically saying whatever the law is, it is good. I am countering this by bringing up that slavery was the law, thereby asking you if thereby slavery was good. You said no. So this means that the law is not always good. And because the law is not always good, then why is mass deportation good? Could you please name one positive outcome on American society of mass deportation? And I will request you to be incredibly specific. I muted you. Click on your profile picture and click the icon of the microphone. Once again, the question that you are prompted to answer and respond to is, can you name one incredibly specific good outcome of mass deportation on America, American society, or the American people?
Yeah, because we're getting rid of people that don't need to be here.
Okay, and what is the good outcome that produces?
And just like you said right now,
what is the good outcome that produces?
You have zero numbers.
What is the good outcome that produces?
That support your claims.
I have zero numbers that support my claim.
Well, because
here are a couple numbers to support my claim that mass deportation leads to bad outcomes. Undocumented immigrants, considering their direct contributions as well as their total contributions via their productivity in the workforce, would be $1.1 trillion through $1.7 trillion per year, accounting for around 4.3% to 5.8% of the American GDP. If we were to deport them all tomorrow, that's what we'd lose. Some other numbers that I have is it's estimated to cost $88 million per year to pull off the operation of mass deportation, as well as we'd have to factor in for the opportunity stupidity cost of the $100 billion that they pay in taxes, meaning that we'd amount to the total number or figure of $2 trillion over the course of the next 10 years to do a mass deportation, contrasted and compared and included with the $1.1 trillion through $1.7 trillion that we'd lose in GDP growth per year every single year. Another number that I have to support my argument is there's currently 8.3 million undocumented workers in the workforce. Another number that I have to support my argument is that these 8.3 million undocumented laborers are more likely to participate in the workforce due to the fact that more of them are of working age when compared to citizens. So this would lead to that result of the number I granted of 1.1 trillion through 1.7 trillion dollars being lost in the American GDP growth per year. So don't say I don't have any numbers or any figures or any data to support my arguments, because that is all I have to support my arguments. Unlike you, I don't operate on rhetoric. Unlike you, I don't operate on emotion, bias, or prejudice. I operate on fact, reason, and logic. So I find it incredibly hypocritical of you to assume otherwise or to suggest that it's false when you have not given any reason, fact, or logic to instantiate that your position that mass deportation is good is correct by informing me and everybody else listening of what one positive outcome on this would be for America, American people, or the American society. In fact, the only response that you have said is that it is good for America because we're getting the damn illegals out. Okay, well, you are not quantifying any particularly good outcome that would lead to, empirically speaking, for this country. So I will once again ask you for the last time, what is one specific, quantifiable, good outcome of removing the undocumented immigrants that are in this country out of the country? And keep in mind, if you can't give a very direct and quantifiable or number-based response to the question, I'm going to laugh at you, and I'm going to have my entire chat laugh at you, because it is you that said I have no numbers or quantifiable responses to back up my positions. Okay, but the moment you unmute and the moment you respond to the question that I'm asking you, you are actually going to prove to everybody listening that that is not true of me, but it is definitely true of you. So please now prove that by being unable to answer this following question. What is one quantifiable, specific, empirical outcome of mass deportation on America that's good?
So you would be against Trump wanting to help those people that work that are undocumented to make them citizens?
So the response to my question is a concession, because you're now advocating for what I want, which is mass amnesty, which is the opposite of mass deportation. You embarrass yourself more than I expected you to, because not only could you quantify a good outcome of mass deportation on America, but you conceded that mass deportation is bad by telling us that you'd support mass amnesty.
No, I already told you, you have no numbers for mass deportation, which is not currently going on.
Okay.
And you said it's not going on, but they want to do it.
What the hell? What the fuck is going on? I don't even... So did you just like not hear me when I gave you the numbers of how much they contribute to the GDP, either directly or productivity, or through their productivity in the workforce, the number of how many undocumented immigrants work, the number of how less likely they are to commit crimes, the number of the amount of taxes they pay per year, the number of the amount of dollars that it costs our government per year to pull off the deportation.
Okay.
And once again, sir, I just want to yes or no. Have you answered my very direct question, which is, can you give me one quantifiable, specific, empirical outcome of mass deportation that is good for this country?
There is nobody that you can, there's no way that you can justify how much crime is going on with somebody that's not in a coding system, which doesn't have a driver's license, doesn't have any social security in their system. Their fingerprints are not in their system. So there is nothing that you can tell me about crimes that are committed against people that are here legally. I used to work in a police
shut the fuck
department.
up. You're just wrong, because if they don't have a social security number, they don't have their fingerprints on record, they don't pay any of these things, what that amounts to is them being an undocumented immigrant. Right? And when it amounts to them being an undocumented immigrant, they are then categorized, right, in our criminal justice system as such, thereby making their crime linked to an undocumented immigrant. Right. So yeah, we actually can track the crime rates of undocumented immigrants, and that is what the institution called PNAS has been doing since the 19th century. But you are still not answering my question, sir. The question I want you to answer is, what is one good, specific, quantifiable outcome of mass deportation on this country? Answer the question. The spotlight is on you, sir. Here's my microphone. I'm going to pass it to you. So, Mr. Adrian, the question that I'm asking you, that we are all dying on an answer to, is as follows. What is one specific positive outcome of mass deportation on America?
The thing is that once you get rid of the people that are not supposed to be here, I'm not against people being here. The thing is that if they do it the legal way, then they'll get the wages they deserve because there are illegal people that are being taken advantage
I gotta interrupt you. What is one positive, quantifiable outcome of mass deportation on America?
Yeah, it helps. It's going to help our economy and help those poor people that are getting lower wages. That
What
should be
specifically in the American economy will it help? Be very specific. Are we talking unemployment? Are we talking GDP? Are we talking business investment? Are we talking inflation? Are we talking about labor force participation rate? What are we talking GDP per capita? What are we talking poverty? Are we talking wealth distribution? Are we talking wealth inequality? Are we talking average wages? Are we talking growth in real median wages? What are we talking about here? What macroeconomic indicators, such as the list of 15 I just gave you, benefit from a mass deportation?
it'll help everything that you mentioned.
Okay. Well, that's lazy as fuck. Okay, because you're not indicating anything specific. You're just being lazy. But no, that's wrong. Okay, that's wrong. Okay, it
How is it-
reduces. Sure,
how
because it
would it be
reduces the GDP by 1.1 trillion through 1.7 trillion dollars per year.
How would that affect it? Since
Because you're forcefully removing people from the market that contribute to the market. Contributions to the market are equated to GDP. That's a gross domestic product in the market. Think about it this way. Imagine that I had an imaginary friend standing right next to me. Every 30 seconds, they gave me $15. But then if I said, fuck you, imaginary friend, hit the road, and I forced them out of my house, are they still going to be putting $15 in my hand every 30 seconds? No. Now imagine the money being put into my hand, like the money being added to the GDP, and imagine my imaginary friend is an undocumented immigrant, and imagine me telling them to get out of my house and hit the road is mass deportation, kicking them out of the country. So, yeah, it makes sense now?
no, I know what you're implying, but the thing is that the thing is that they're always going to be in jeopardy of being in this country, whether you have a Republican or Democrat president here.
All right, I'm going to go and kick you. Goodbye. We're going to move on to the next guest. Here we go, everybody. So don't be like Adrian.